Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round and with it the season finale of the UK Sim Racing Community's GT3 League Season 15 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and proudly sponsored by the virtual racing school, that's the VRS. The stage is set and we are here in Germany for the Nürburgring Grosser Preisstrecke or the Grand Prix racing circuit. It's not quite a tour all the way through the Eiffel Mountains, up through and down them, but indeed in the foothills of the Eiffel Mountains. Our drivers will do battle today as they look to seal their championship campaigns on the ultimate high, which is glory in both our Drivers' Championships, the Teams' Championship and also the Challenge Cup. But awaiting them is a circuit that does not lack variety, with an absolutely brilliant combination of 16 corners as packed into 3.15 miles. It is a circuit which has a little bit of everything, and that means it's the absolutely perfect location to bring things to a close, as here our drivers will need to be smart on strategy, brave under braking and also clever with their tactics from lights out to checkered flag, and a good qualifying lap won't go amiss either as they do battle here near the city of Nürburgring to bring everything to a conclusion and for us to crown our champions for the season 15 of the GT3 League. But we should welcome you to this live broadcast from circuit side. You're tuning in to a post-round broadcast you're in pleasure, and you're tuning in right now via the two official UK Sim Racing media channels, one of which is available on YouTube, and if you tune in there, well, we do say hello to a good number of you already in the YouTube chat, including Sean Cranleigh-Swash, Jordan Jones, also Alex Brown, and also there we do have Sir Bottlejob, aka Jack Barker, and also Nathan Scott, and good evening to you all. And for all those of you tuning in via YouTube right now and are a bit shy, don't feel shy, feel free to say hi. We don't bite here, and that's on youtube.com at the UK Sim Racing YouTube channel. Alternatively, of course, you can be tuning in via Twitch at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. And if you are there, don't be shy to say hi either. It always seems to be the case that there's more of you on YouTube than there are on Twitch, but I'm sure there's one or two of you hiding over in Twitch as well. But regardless of what media platform you're tuning in via, in the commentary booth you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll bring you all your racing action as it unfolds and as it all comes to a close in this season finale. Now, this is a post-round broadcast. What it means is the racing you're going to see today, it's not actually live. It occurred as of yesterday on Sunday the 31st of August 2025, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Monday the 1st of September 2025. Hold up a second, it's September already. Goodness me, this year is flying by. It'll be Christmas before we know it. Well, somebody's definitely going to get an early present today if they take the championship and win it the monetary award. But still, we digress. And, well, that does mean with a post-round broadcast, we do not know what happens in the practice session, which is currently ongoing, or the qualifying session that's due to come, or, of course, the race where all the important points will be scored. And therefore, we do ask if you do happen to know the result or have any inkling, do not put any spoilers in our respective chats, because at the end of the day, this is going to be as close as possible to the raw, live viewing experience. Not just for us here in the commentary booth, but more importantly, the guys and girls tuning at home who are looking forward to seeing how this all comes to a close. But to get here then, what has been the journey that all of our drivers have made the way through? Well, they've travelled around the globe. They've made the way from America to the United Kingdom, to Japan, back to America, to the European continent for Italy and France, then to Brazil, back to the US of A. It's been a very popular venue, the US of A, this season. Back to the United Kingdom again, the second most popular venue of the season, and we are back on the European continent for the German Nürburgring Grosser Preisstrecke circuit. However, we've been to Daytona, we've been to Brands Hatch, we've been to Fuji. Those are the first three rounds we had, and prior to our mid-season break week, which coincided, of course, with the iRacing official 24 Hours of Spa. The first three rounds, there are plenty of stories to be untold, but at the very front of the field in the elite class, it was the story of Daniel Stasuk, who seemed to be running rampantly away at the very front, and conversely, with some driver class changes over the course of the first three rounds, we definitely saw a mixing of the field in both our Pro and Am classes, with Ruben Berings absolutely dominating the Pro class, when we did see one of our drivers in the form of Joe Newman promoted all the way up to Elite after he dominated his Ford Mustang in the first two rounds. But it was the Ruben Berings show in at the Pro class from that point onwards, and in the Am class it was the Brett Berings show. The Berings brothers absolutely dominating their classes, and in Rookie meanwhile, well, there were a lot of questions to be answered because nobody seemed to be leading the way. However, after the mid-season break week, that's when things suddenly turned upside down and got turned on their head, because we saw signs that Pavel Dolezal was able to take the fight in the Elite class to Daniel Stasuk, and what a set of battles we've had between the two of them so far this season. Indeed, whilst that Elite Championship has concluded, we'll tell you a bit more about that very shortly, because it has concluded coming into this round. Pavel Dolezal demonstrated his prowess, particularly at both VIR and also at the Mazzano circuit, where their battle was going to be of epic proportions until a drive-through penalty scuppered the battle between the two of them. Meanwhile, in the Pro class, well, we have seen the rise of Tractix Racing's pair of Daniel Shillcock and also Krista Halsoy. They chased down Ruben Berings, and Brett Berings, who was promoted to the Pro Supercross much later on in the season than anticipated due to his dominance in AM. It's the first in the UK Sim Racing Series for a driver to be promoted after in excess of 4 rounds of the championship, but it was decided by the admins, and well, to be fair to Brecht, he's here for the racing, he's absolutely loving it, he didn't mind the fact he'd been promoted. Well, we have seen a battle back and forth between DDK, Race Anywhere, and Tractix Racing, and Tractix Racing have gradually gained the upper hand, or at least brought themselves level with the absolute runaway Ruben Berings. Meanwhile, in the AM class, well, in the absence of Brecht Berings, it has been the second half of the season the question of will it be Sean Cranleigh-Swash, Neil Kenyon, or Darren Sharples, and well, Mr. Sharples is on the charge after his brilliant result at Silverstone, more on that in a bit, but Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who seems to control the reins, and in the rookie class, well, BJ Alvarez seems to be the man to beat, but Alistair Murray struck back, but not without some brilliant performances from the likes of Richard Jones as well, and that brings us here today, and of course, we're going to be concluding the UK Sim Racing Challenge Cup, given we had 5 rounds of it, and this will be the 5th and final round. But talking a bit more about our circuit then, our drivers will be taking on the World Endurance Championship, the WEC variant of the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker, located near the city of Nürburgring in the Ahrweiler district of the Rhineland-Palatinate state of Germany. Well, this circuit is iconic, and indeed it'll be plastered on the poster walls of many a household around the world, and a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the track mats that come with it. As we said earlier, 16 corners, all of these corners are packing with variety, and there is a degree of elevation change thrown into the mix as well. But as our drivers make the way down the start-finish straight and roar the way towards the Yokohama curve, they'll head in towards the turn 1 hairpin and very quickly launch their way into the Mercedes Arena, also known perhaps more prominently as the AMG Arena at turns 2, 3 and 4. Then it's going to be the rise over the crest of 2 to go downhill into a braking zone at turn number 3. We'll quickly switch back in from left into right for turn number 4, and then they'll ascend their way through the kink of 5 and up towards turn number 6. The middle sector, lap 1, folded at that point, and suddenly it's a much more free-flowing sector of the lap. Medium speed corners abound as they make their way through left into right to turn 6 and 7, continuously going downhill, and it's downhill all the way to the Goodyear Acura hairpin at turn number 8, the lowest point on the circuit, after which our drivers will then begin to ascend. Firstly, they'll ascend for the Michael Schumacher S, the infamous chicane, named after the infamous German driver, with his 7 times a Formula 1 champion, and as they make their way left into right through turns 9 and 10, be very quickly in towards the braking zone of Revenor Curve at turn number 11. There it's left into right again because they'll be followed up with the Bilstein Curve, where it's flat out all the way through Advan Bogen at turn number 13, and then heading through the Vidal chicane, the fast medium speed chicane at turns 14 and 15. It'll set them up towards the Hyundai N Curve at turn 16 to complete the lap and do it all over again. And what a lap it is here, just shy of 2 minutes in total, so it's a relatively long lap, and the drivers will definitely be feeling it lap after lap as they try to keep things cool and consistent. But coming into tonight, a quick reminder of the rules because we can't go racing without them. This is an open setup series with fuel loads restricted to 60% for all races. Qualifying wise, we'll be using a closed qualifying format with drivers having 4 flying laps available to them, plus the out lap. As for the race, it'll commence via double barrel rolling start, as is a tradition of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League, with there being 1 mandatory pit stop for fuel. Changing tyres is entirely optional. Each driver has 1 fast repair available should they need it, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 20 or more instant points. But as for all race stewarding, it'll be conducted post-race. I'd also like to remind you that we do have for the final time this season a VRS subscription giveaway competition ongoing, and well, thanks to our title sponsor, the Virtual Racing School, we'll be giving away a VRS competitive subscriptions as follows to our drivers via raffle draws after the round is concluded. It'll be a 3-month subscription for 1 lucky winner, a 2-month subscription for a slightly less lucky but still lucky winner, and a 1-month subscription for a least lucky but still a lucky winner there, no doubt about it. And any driver who is on the grid and has at least made the way to the grid for the given round of racing, they'll be eligible to enter the draw after the broadcast is concluded, so long as they haven't previously won the prize in a previous round. And of course, Nathan J. Scott, he had an absolutely brilliant amount of luck last time out at Silverstone, picking up both the 3-month and the 2-month subscription rewards there. And could we see another double winner today? We will wait and see. But enough about the rules, regulation, giveaways and everything in between. We're here primarily for the racing, so let's head back to circuit side. And as we do, well, what is going on in this final practice session then is the big question that many of you may be asking, and the short answer to that right now is that as our drivers wind their way around, Pavel Dolezal, well, he is looking to be one of the quicker drivers in Elite, no doubt about it. But the fastest man out there at the moment is the Ford Mustang driver there of Stuart Reynolds. And, well, Reynolds has been one of those drivers who hasn't quite been at the very front of the Elite field, or indeed the overall field all season, but he's been up there fighting hard for big prizes. But Pavel Dolezal right now, well, he's going to be unleashed onto the world today because there is no way now for him to be able to claim the Elite Championship after 9 rounds of racing. Indeed, Daniel Stasuk wrapped things up as of the previous round, so therefore it does mean now it's all about a little bit of pride, and also the question of which of the Pace Worx eSports pair of Dolezal or his teammate James Powelsland, who you can see here, will be taking the runner-up spot, given the fact there is a sizable gap between the two teammates, and it looks like Pavel Dolezal is the favourite at least, but Powelsland has proven to be very fast in the second half of the season, so you never know what can happen there. Meanwhile, in the pro class, well, the story there is the fact that because a shock disqualification from last round's results, well, Ruben Berings suddenly finds himself on the back foot here because his championship lead has been absolutely decimated to only 2 points over Daniel Shillcock. That's how close it is, given the fact that he did finish the race in the pit lane, coming onto that final lap at Silverstone, and well, due to an iRacing timing glitch, anyone who comes directly into the pit lane on the final lap, they are registered to finish ahead of the field, and well, for Ruben Berings, unfortunately being caught out by that, a completely innocent mistake, but in the end, that's the way it's gone, and well, the rule book of UK Sim Racing does say that if a penalty would be issued by iRacing official lobby, well, it would be issued in the UK Sim Racing Series, and the official iRacing penalty for finishing in that regard is a disqualification, and that rule had to be applied. It's rough, but to be fair, and credit where it's due to Ruben Berings, he's taking it in his stride, and well, right now he's not slowing down at all because he is the fastest pro out there by almost 4 tenths over Daniel Shillcock, and Krista Howell-Sawyer, the Tractics Racing teammate of Shillcock, is a further 1.5 tenths behind. So Ruben Berings right now, I think he's kicked his teddy out the pram, and what he said, this is not to insult him by the way, this is what I love about him, I think what he said is, right, you know what, I'm going to show the world today what I'm going to do here in the Nürburgring, and that is take this crown away from this man in particular, Daniel Shillcock, who, to be fair, has been a revelation over the last couple of rounds. He's really brought up the pace since round number 6, and therefore he has been the man who's taken the fight to Ruben Berings. However, do not rule out third place man Krista Howell-Sawyer, who right now is a bit of an outsider, but he could still potentially sweep the crown away from the pair of them should results go against them. In the AM class, meanwhile, well, Darren Sharples, if we're talking about moments of the season, well, I don't know if you can classify 54 minutes of racing as a moment of the season, but you know, I'm going to go out there and put this forward as well, the moments of the season, because there is voting going on amongst our drivers this season. If you didn't check out the Silverstone broadcast last week, go back and watch it. You will see for 54 minutes, Darren Sharples and Nathan Anstis literally go toe-to-toe. If they weren't fighting on circuit, they were fighting in the pit lane on strategy, and in the end one of them had to win the race, and it was Darren Sharples who just took that win. Spoilers, of course, I've given away what happens, but to be fair, it doesn't matter because it was epic, and seriously, you could relive it week in, week out, how close it was between the two of them, and what it means now is that his deficit to Sean Cranleigh-Swash, well, Sean Cranleigh-Swash is only 6 points ahead. He's still the favourite, to be fair, but Sean Cranleigh-Swash right now will know that Sharples is close behind, but as we do look to Matthew Cheverton there, making his way winding on through, well, as for the rookie class, Alistair May has sealed the title, but the fight for run-up remains with Alvarez ahead of none other than John Lee Jones, who is highly motivated, and you see him here, ladies and gentlemen, but you only see him briefly because it's time to head to qualifying. Who's going to put it on pole? Let's find out. So here we go then, ladies and gentlemen, for the final time this season, 10 minutes, 1 out lap, 4 flying laps, everyone is go, 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 and none more so than Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who immediately romps and roars his way out of the pit lane and in towards the AMG arena. And this qualifying lap, well, how important is it, many of you may be asking? The answer, very important. Now, we're not expecting any rain here today. If we were expecting rain, the importance of this qualifying lap would go through the roof, because racing here at the Nürburgring GP circuit becomes excruciatingly challenging in the wet, in the fact the wet lines around here are significantly different and very narrow compared to the dry lines, or when you do have a circuit that is naturally drying. However, talking more about the dry conditions, the thing about this circuit is the fact that you do have plenty of opportunities to potentially go for overtakes. However, overtaking requires you to go for lunges. It's not an easy circuit to look for moves at, for the simple reason every corner here does taper to quite a tight apex point, and therefore you've got to be very forceful. You've got to get up the inside and essentially say to your rival, I'm taking this place off you, whether you like it or not. Now, you may be sat there thinking, well, surely that's how almost sport goes. Well, if you think back to Silverstone, with a circuit that was had plenty of room available for 3-4 wide at most of the corners, or at least 2 wide in the tightest of sections. Around here, where you can definitely see a notable difference in terms of how wide the circuit is. It offers 2 wide space. However, to get on the inside of your rival, you don't really have that long a run from corner to corner or corner sequence to corner sequence, so that's why you've got to be quite aggressive under braking. But such aggressive driving, it does 2 things. Firstly, if you go for lunge, it puts both you and the driver you're trying to overtake off racing line, and it means you both naturally lose racing time. So that's the first thing. And secondly, as well, as a racing driver, if you go for those lunges, you're going to be using the brakes a lot more. You're also going to be putting a lot more pressure and heat through the tyres, and it means you naturally put yourself at risk of losing some race pace the longer you go. So therefore, if you can qualify right up the front, you're suddenly going to find you're going to be in a very good position to essentially control the race and try to run away. That's not to say this is going to be a race to follow the leader with our 27 drivers who've made it to the German circuit today. And, well, keep an eye on the fact that we do have the absence of our champion-elect, plus also our second place man in the rookie championship as it currently stands. Well, this means in the rookies day we are going to see a bit of a different trend, because Richard Jones, well, keep in mind the slow and steady racing driver, he's coming into this round on a very happy high in the fact that he has picked up now 2 wins this season after his brilliant performance at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And, well, as he roars way around, in fact, I believe, now that I double check my records, it is 3 wins this season. I do apologise to Richard. He has picked up 3 wins, and it's only because a dismal first half of the season that he wouldn't be contesting the championship crown either. But as he roars his way on through, well, what's he going to be able to do here today is the question, and the answer is we will wait and see. But as he comes charging on through there, in fact, I'm misreading my result sheet there, he has 2 wins to his name. He'll be trying to go for a 3rd win today, I should say, getting confused up there with a note which I've got against BJ Alvarez. Well, Jones will be trying to make it 3 this season and end himself on a very happy high. But roaring his way on around, well, from him, Darren Giacovelli, of course, he's shown great signs of promise and improvement over the course of the season, and he'll be potentially looking to try and sneak in a podium at least. But then again, don't rule out Alex Brown, who's here today, and he's also in the chat, the relative novice when it comes to league racing, at least on iRacing, but credit where it's due. He was on the multi-class grid ad of season 3 of the multi-class series. He was humming and hawing or hesitant about returning to the grid, but the fact he returned to the grid for season 15 of the GT3 league, well, I can definitely tell you one thing right now, he's definitely had great spirit in this league because of the fact he's been out there and the rounds he's been able to make. He hasn't been the fastest driver out there, but he has pushed hard. He's put some top 5s in. He's even chased down a couple of podiums over this season, and therefore, if we do see him in a future series, he's going to be one to watch out for with regards to AM classes, because I wouldn't be surprised if one day it's going to be his turn to celebrate on the top step of a podium. But coming on towards the end of what will be his first flying lap, wait to see what Brown is able to do here in the slow and steady BMW M4, and this will be the last time you see the BMW M4 race in the UK Sim Racing Series, because the Evo model is coming to iRacing in the next season's update, so only a week or 2 away. And, well, we look forward to seeing what the aerodynamically refined and suspension refined car is able to do from the M-powered German marque. But Alex Brown there puts the initial board on a rookie class, or 1 minute 58, but immediately Richard Jones goes the best part of 2 seconds faster. Well, I think Jones feeling quite happy with that lap, but Brown's going to have to do some work there as he heads on through. But as he does so, we look to Stuart Reynolds meanwhile, and, well, Reynolds here right now, he's the fastest overall and in the lead, and he is looking absolutely blazingly quick here. And, well, it's not just because he's on the thumbnail of this broadcast, I can promise you that, ladies and gentlemen, although I must admit I do have an affectionate spot for the pictures of the modern Ford Mustang GT3. I'm completely biased, I do love American muscle, but right now Reynolds definitely flexing his own muscle here as he roars his way down towards turn number 8. But as he does so, we say hello there to Sky King in the YouTube chat, and also to Satinder Deensa. And we're good evening to you both, and I hope you're both doing well in the YouTube chat. And if not, if you're not having a good day, well, hopefully today's broadcast can turn that frown upside down into a big old smile. But as Reynolds comes on through, well, he's got a sizable gap to the rest of his peers in the elite class at the moment, including Tobias Kruken, the Sole Prep Precision Racing driver, who we've seen this season. He's had some brilliant moments. And to be fair to him, he hasn't been the fastest driver in Elite, but he has been one of those drivers who, to be fair, if you had to say any driver who gives 100% and then a 5% more, this is the man that does it. Now, he does have one weakness we have seen this season, which is he loves to run a very high downforce setup on his Mercedes compared to others, and we did see that of Silverstone and also a couple of rounds before, in the fact that because of the extra wing he was running, well, he did end up in a position whereby he didn't quite have the straight line speed of everybody else to try and make overtakes happen. 7. But to be fair to Tobias, going for something a little bit different, well, he's definitely maximised the amount of points he's been able to get out of this Mercedes, and I think with a high downforce setup today, this is a high downforce setup circuit, the Nürburgring GP Strecker, where it's definitely going to favour him, because he does feel very comfortable in the car when he's got a lot of rear wing on it. But as our drivers are now making their way onto their third flying laps, will they squeeze in all 4 flying laps? Well, I think our elite drivers will just about. Those are the other classes, they may struggle to do so. It is very close to a 2-minute mark per lap, but coming back to the rookies here, will Jordan Jones cross the line? Richard Jones did improve, but in the battle of the Joneses, it is going to be Richard Jones who still stays ahead, with Jordan Jones then improving to a 55.849. And I should point out, the two of them are not related, they just happen to share the same surname, but it has become a bit of a running trope this season of the battle of the Joneses in the rookie class, and we can't blame or be upset about that. And indeed, I do know that both Richard and also Jordan have been enjoying their little inter-Jonesy battle, if you will. But right now, I think Jordan's going to have to try and prove himself one more time here today. As the sim coach driver makes his way out of the corner with DWR setups, well, now he makes his way onwards towards turn 6 and 7. And as he does so, what about the pro class, I hear you ask? Well, right now, it's looking to be the Berings family gathering at the top of the pro class, because that's a 53.490. That's the fastest time for Ruben, and his brother Brett, meanwhile, only 6,000 slower. Oh, well, that's absolutely staggering between the two, no doubt about it. And right now, it does seem as though, well, these two could be on for something, because a further 2 tenths behind is Daniel Shillcock. Meanwhile, where on earth is Krista Halzoy? He's 5th there at the moment in the Corvette Z06. And right now, the GT3R driver not quite happy how this qualifying's going. In fact, he's the best part of half a second of a Casper Brotner's time in 4th, and Cy Ansley slides himself in between the two of them, up into 5th on a 53.978. But as all these drivers continue on, well, 2 minutes left on the clock, and now this is going to be about squeezing that final lap in if you can. As for the AM class, well, championship leader Sean Cranleigh-Swash, he's come here with a statement today, and that is he wants to seal the deal. And the Pigeon Racing Ford Mustang right now is the fastest of the AMs, only by 3/4 of a tenth versus, interestingly, Jack Barker in the Acura NSX Evo. And, well, I can tell you one thing for Jack Barker. In this season, he has had a nightmare season with this car. Something is just not clicking between Jack and the Acura. It really is probably the ultimate breakup of celebrity breakups for 2025 when it comes to the sim racing world. Wind back the clock to season 3 of the Multiclass series. He was absolutely loving this car. This season, the GT3 League, it's almost as if the two are filing for divorce right now, and I'm not trying to make too much of light humour about it, because I know it's quite a serious subject, divorce and marriage, but the fact that it really is the polar opposite of the marriage between the two. And well, right now, for Jack Barker, it definitely seems to be, for the Made for Racing driver here, this is going to be probably a swan song for his time in the Acura, or at least for a little while, but he's going to give it his all the way through. But as we also say hello to Sky King in the Twitch chat, we're switching things up there because YouTube's lagging for him, no worries about that. And we also say hello there to Sam Clark, and we're very happy to have you tuned in, Sam, and hope you're doing well. Well, everybody are rolling the way on through right now, and what's left on the table? Well, any big surprises out there? One of the big surprises, perhaps, is the fact that we do have Matt Edmondson on the grid here today. He hasn't been on the grid for a few rounds, but it looks like he might be starting at the very back of the field if he is able to make it to the grid. And, well, as our drivers come on through it, well, Daniel Pace right now, the old dudes in cars driver, currently 4th of the AMs. And we should show you where everybody fits into the grand old picture between each other there, as that is your overall timings now, with only 30 seconds left on the clock. Most of the drivers have finished their final laps, or are about to. And it does look as though Stuart Reynolds might have this one in the bag. Dolezal is only 400 behind, but he's not been able to improve. And whilst we do see that Daniel Pace come across the line, he moves to 3rd in AM, ahead of Darren Sharples now. The two teammates, they're swapping places, and that, ladies and gentlemen, seems to be qualifying complete. Matthew Shelton's not going to get his final lap in. He's just going to miss out by 5 seconds, but that's qualifying. It's time to head to the grid then for our final race of the season. So the drivers make their way to the grid for round 10 of 10 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15, sponsored by VRS and brought to you on iRacing. This is how they line up for our finale here in Germany. It is Stuart Reynolds who takes pole position for Fury Simsport overall in the elite class there in the 350 machine, and what a pole lap, a 52.696. Only 0.04 faster than second place man Pavel for Pace Worx eSports, but to be fair for Reynolds, a phenomenal lap there, and that is the very best we've seen from him all season in qualifying. Then on row number 2, it is going to be none other than James Powelsland, the second of the Pace Worx eSports cars, as he looks to try and swipe away second place in the championship from his teammate Pavel. However, he'll be starting there in third ahead of Daniel Stasuk, the elite champion-elect for NJB Performance, who knows today it's all about having a bit of fun. Behind them, starting 5th, is Solpec Precision Racing's Tobias Kruken, who in the end was only a further 10th behind, very close between our top 5, 3 tenths separating them in totality. And joining Kruken on the third row of the grid, it's Daniel Shillcock, who is your pro pole sitter. We said it was the Ruben Berings show, but in the end it does seem as though it looks like the Track 6 Racing driver found a bit of magic right at the end of the session, and well done to him. Then on row number 4, it's going to be Casper Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars, the second place for our pros, and Niels Bocage for NJB Performance, who has a bit of a difficult qualifying performance and stays in 8th. Then it's going to be Ruben Berings, who goes 9th on this grid for DDK with Race Anywhere, the Belgian driver there not having a happy end to the qualifying session, and he's in close company by only 11 thousandths to brother Brecht, who starts in 10th for DDK with Digital Motor Art. They've got their work cut out for them on that 5th row. Outside the top 10 then, in 11th place, it's Sean Cranleigh-Swash, the pole sitter of the AMS for Pigeon Racing, only by a 10th, if that, over Made for Racing's Jack Barker. Behind them on row number 7, it's going to be Darren Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars. He needs to beat Sean Cranleigh-Swash and beat him significantly today if he wants to take the championship crown, but right now starting third right behind him, he'll know he's not missed out too much. Sight Anthony starts 14th for UK Sim Racing Price, and from the Welshman, it's then the Briton of Nathan Scott, 15th on the grid for Empire Motorsport, and 16th goes the way of the Portuguese driver at Daniel Pace for Old Dudes in Cars. In 17th, we've got Ryan Davies, the privateer, ahead of Krista Halsey for Track 6 Racing. He's had a slow start to this one today, with Hendrik Zilka in 19th place for Venari Racing, out-qualifying Matthew Sheraton, who starts 20th. Outside the top 20, then we do see in none other than 21st place behind the Aztec Racing driver, it is your rookie pole sitter, Slow and Steady Racing's Richard Jones, who looks to chase his third win of the season. He's going to be ahead of Rob Windsor for UK Sim Racing Stuart, with row number 12 going to John Lee Jones, the privateer, ahead of James Connolly for UK Sim Racing Stuart, with Alex Brown, 25th for Slow and Steady Racing, ahead of Darren Giacovelli for Swazi Gold. And last but not least on the grid, he's made it to the grid on the Corvette Z06, UK Sim Racing Hills, Matt Edmondson. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to see all the drivers go roaring through the final quarter, and as they do, it's to Stuart Reynolds to take us to the grid. And it's lights out and away we go then as our drivers roar the way away, and Stuart Reynolds wastes no time in going green flag racing as they charged away down towards the opening hairpin. Reynolds there getting a good start, but Pavel Dolezal close behind as they all scramble under braking, 2 by 2, 3 by 3. They all come into that braking zone, and as they do, well, we look to the blimp camera and a bit too far away there. In fact, we don't get quite a close up, and well, all the field's so close together right now as they roar the way into the AMG arena. But which of our drivers here is going to get it right? That's the big question we will have to find out, as it looks like Daniel Stasuk up a place, as is Tobias Kruken, and James Powelsland's had a nightmare start, dropping 2 places. Kruken on the inside in there, as that Sean Cranleigh-Swash being edged out wide, coming through turn number 3. In towards turn 4 he comes, and Jack Barker there also goes out a bit wide for his misdemeanors, and on towards turn number 5 and 6 they come, but no change between the two of them. Or is it, as Darren Sharples says, okay, I'm going to go for it early here, gets around the outside of Jack Barker, and Sight Anthony now tries to compound the woes of the Acura driver. He's going to go for it as he looks up the inside there. Nathan Scott behind, he's in a little bit of a ding-dong battle with Daniel Pace, but the two of them separate their differences and now come down towards turn number 8. Will Pace back off here under braking into the hairpin. No, he does not. He goes for it nice and early here. And well, Nathan Scott's going to keep the door open. A small love tap between the two of them. They'll get away with it that time. But they've got to be careful of doing that too often, because otherwise they may end up going around. We'll have to see what happens between them a bit later on in the race. Meanwhile, in the rookie class, Richard Jones is a second ahead of Jordan Jones currently. And as they roll the way up the hill, well, nothing between those two at the moment, at least. For Krista Halsey here, well, he's had a difficult qualifying session, but he's now making amends. Oh, no, he's not! As they go round, and that is carnage coming out to turn number 11. That was Daniel Pace going sideways. Richard Jones avoided all the chaos and carnage, but definitely a bit of a nightmare. Matthew Sheraton as well getting collected in that, and that was a freeway collision there. And well, the one who's called the worst is Daniel Pace, who immediately had to tow to the pits, and that could be his race in arrears before he's even completed a lap. As Matt Edmondson now looks at Darren Giacovelli and thinks, okay, now's my turn to try and squeeze on through, but he's not going to be able to do so there as they make the way towards the end lap and go on to the next one. So after one lap, it's Stuart Reynolds who's already opened up an 8/10 of a second gap ahead of Pavel Dolezal, second. Daniel Stasuk is in third, ahead of Tobias Kruken, with James Powelsland falling 2 places, sitting in 5th. Then you have your pro leader, Daniel Shillcock, in 6th. He started on pole in the class, and that's where he's going to continue to be, at least for another lap, it would seem, with Niels Bocage behind him in 7th. Ruben Berings, meanwhile, has had a great start, up to 8th place, now into 2nd place in pro. And a Casper Brotner, and he's trying to chase down Shillcock, knowing he needs to beat Shillcock today if he wants to take the Pro Championship crown. Then from Brotner behind him in 9th place, it's your top 10 completed by Ruben Berings, who stayed exactly where he started. But to be fair, I get the feeling that the Audi R8 Evo 2 driver, he's going to play rear gunner here for the purposes of the DDK racing team, and potentially just try to make sure that Casper Brotner can't get too involved in the battle in front. We will see what plays out behind them, as because we do have best to arrest in 11th place, it is your AM leader Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who's got Darren Sharples chasing after him, and then Jack Barker completes your AM top 3 with Cy Anthony and Nathan Scott behind. Then it's Hendrik Zilka, who's creating the second half of the field at this point, down in 16th place, as he's been chased after by Rob Windsor, and Richard Jones, your rookie leader, in 18th, with then Jordan Lee Jones all the way down in 22nd. You can see him here, how he's breathing on the neck of Matthew Cheverton, and well, it's going to get very close between these two very shortly as we jump on board with Jordan Jones. What's he going to be able to do here for the Schumacher S? And the answer is not quite much at the moment, as he chases after Cheverton in front, and well, nothing between these two at the time as they pound their way in towards turn number 11. However, you get the feeling that Jordan Jones right now will be just learning from the experience running behind the Mustang, trying to understand where it's stronger and weaker compared to his own car. And we do know this Mustang very strong in the acceleration zones and its top end, but it does struggle with the heavy braking, and that's why you're seeing as the lap goes into the later stages, that Mustang really pulls away, because the lap is more focused around medium to high end speed, whereas in the early stage of the lap, particularly turns 1 through to 4, low speed cornering is the name of the game, and that is where Jordan Jones will be the king of it in the Porsche by comparison. But the two of them stay as they are, at least for now, as Jones tries to find a better run out of the final quarter, but Hyundai Curve does not give him any benefits this time around. A bit further back, Krista Halsoy, who was collected, of course, in that big calamity at turn number 11 on the open lap. Well, he's not had to go to the pits, but he has got a heavily damaged Corvette on the rear right quarter panel. Hopefully the suspension is not out of alignment, otherwise that's going to feel absolutely cumbersome a drive. But he takes on Alex Brown, goes at the inside, and that's a place gain there for the 247 driver, as he just gets pinched onto the back there of Darren Giacovelli. He has to back off the throttle on the exit, and that gives Brown an opportunity to come back at him. Giacovelli right now trying to make sure that Halsoy stays behind him to avoid having Brown for company, and well, Giacovelli find himself in a bit of a mix there, because Matt Edmondson got past him into turn number 1. That was slightly off camera, but that's not going to work out, and that's gone very wrong there, and Chris Halsoy collecting the rear of Giacovelli's car, and Alex Brownian had nowhere to go, and well, Chris Halsoy understandably not too happy about that. That's Morse code for a few words I can't repeat on a live stream, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you right now, Chris Halsoy will not be too happy about that one. But meanwhile, Stuart Reynolds is still your leader, but after 5 minutes up into second place is Daniel Stasuk. He's had a bit of a lightning start to this race now as the Acura driver, and one thing we always like to say about Daniel Stasuk, it's not about how he qualifies. He's proven it when he's qualified a long way down the order. He's found his way into lead of the race, whether it be on the opening stint or somehow through the pit stops, and we've said it time and time again, his fuel tank is investigated by the FIA and indeed the UK Sim Racing Stewards panel as well after each and every round, and they have not been able to find any secret stash of fuel on that Acura. We don't know how he does it, but he finds a way of magically fuel saving the NJB performance car that nobody else is able to do. However, right now he's also finding a magical way of delivering race pace that wasn't there in qualifying, and I suspect it may be that track limits called to out in qualifying, because this circuit is very prickly when it comes to track limits, particularly on the exits of the AMG Arena corners, turns 1, 2, 3 and 4, and well, right now for Daniel Stasuk, he'll definitely be thinking it's not about the qualifying pace anymore, it's all about just delivering these race laps. As he makes his way on through, well, we take a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, take a look back at some of the major moments in the early stages of the race, and without further ado, we are going to take a look back firstly at the green flag start. Now, this was all drivers getting underway, and well, classic start here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, in the fact that the race leader really dictating the flow down towards the opening corner. But what you're going to see here, focus on James Powelsland in the 786 Pace Worx eSports car on the inside here into the corner. Big losses right at the start because he had Pavel Dolezal on his outside, and you'll see Stasuk here carries all the momentum in the Acura up into turn number 2. Went around the outside, and a big snap there of understeer in towards turn number 2. That is what caused Powelsland to lose out versus Kruken. The car just refused to budge. He went back up the inside there, went for the lunge, and as we said earlier, you have to lunge into these corners to make moves, but Powelsland had lost the place and almost lost it there to Daniel Shillcock as well. So that explains why Powelsland dropped so far down the order. Then we had this only moments later, and this was going in towards turn number 11. This is Matthew Shelton and Daniel Pace. Pace went deep, Houser went up the inside him. Pace lost the rear of the car coming out of turn number 11, and Matthew Shelton is in the wrong place at the right time to be collected there. And in terms of what exactly happened to Daniel Pace, well, here is a further replay of what happened on an alternative camera. Battling there with Chris Houser. In fact, they were elbowing each other. We didn't notice that at first, so it was a little bit furious between them, but then I don't think there was anything malicious there as Pace tried to rejoin. Unfortunately, on that runoff area, the car just getting unsettled and collecting the pair. And well, that was the race between them, and we had this for Ruben Berings on lap number 3 only moments ago. A little bit of a small mistake here from Berings as he tried to chase down the leader of the pro class, and we'll just have a bit of an excursion wide, using all the road width and a bit more, but he'll get away with it that time, but won't keep getting away with it as we make our way back to your live racing screens, ladies and gentlemen. So as we do plenty more racing to go, and that was a look back at some of the major moments on the opening 3 laps since the start of the race. But more moments are certainly to come here over the course of what is our grand total of 60 minutes of racing. Our clock continues to tick away, and as it does so, well, we've got the clock absolutely dialed in for our season finale, ladies and gentlemen. It does keep track of the full 60 minutes rather than stopping every time we go to a replay. If you're wondering why it was a bit inaccurate as the broadcast went on that last round, but clocks aside right now, we'll keep track of that. Well, all the drivers here definitely keeping their eyes on the prize. But if you're Ruben Berings right now, the problem is you've got your eyes on not quite the prize in front, albeit it is at the rear of a car in front of him, but it's not the car he wants to be hunting down, because that is Nils Placage, the elite Ford Mustang driver, NJP Performance, who right now finds himself solidly in the pro sandwich. We're on his way out to the right and in towards the Schumacher as he comes. Well, the DDK with Race Anywhere driver here, he's close, but not quite close enough. And again, we are seeing that difference in the body language of the cars, as in fact, Berings there a little bit of understeer creeping in as a result of the dirty air, mounting the apex curbs a bit higher coming through the Schumacher S, particularly on the exit of turn number 10. That didn't look comfortable for the DDK Porsche. In fact, it looked as though the car was grounding out on the exit curb, and that might be a sign he's running quite a low ride height. But the problem is, if he ends up going up onto those curbs, the car's actually in a straight line, or tram line effectively, as we like to refer to it, where the car is pulled along by the ground grooves. But he makes his way through Vidal right now. Well, no sign of the flatter curbs there, but it might just be this car is very sensitive to high curves, of which the exit curves at the Nürburgring, particularly in lap after lap, they are very prominent compared to, say, the final quarter, which you see here, which is absolutely flat out. Well, they make the one to another lap. For Berings right now, it's all about playing the chase game. As we do say hello there to Daz Sharples in the YouTube chat, and I hope you're doing well, Daz. And as our drive's coming down here for Ruben Berings, it's going to be a bit of a patience game here, because Daniel Shillcock is not getting away, and neither is James Powelsland, interestingly enough. So Powelsland here, after a difficult start, he is now being brought in a little bit by the field behind him. And intriguingly, look here, Daniel Stasuk, Pavel Dolezal and Tobias Kruken is now catching up to second and third place. Well, the number 14 driver here, I think he's got a bit of a grin on his face right now. I think he wants to put on a bit of a show here today and chase down another podium. He hasn't had that many podiums compared to his rivals, but to be fair, everyone he has earned or chased after, he's absolutely loved the pursuit of it. And well, this is no exception here as he makes his way down the hill once again. But he builds up the speed. Well, the problem is he's not quite close enough versus Dolezal this time. These Mercedes machines, well, they may be running the same car, but I can tell you one thing, they are running slightly different setups on it. As we said earlier, Tobias does normally run a lot more rear wing compared to his rivals. I wouldn't be surprised if Pace Worx eSports have perhaps shaved off just one bit of rear wing in terms of the setting in order to give themselves just a slight edge on speed and also to loosen the rear of the car up a little bit under braking. But Kruken Reed does love that rear downforce as he heads through turn at number 11. It shows because on these medium speed apex corners, the way he's just able to absolutely toss the car at the corner, whereas meanwhile you can see the body language of Dolezal's car in front is a little bit more sensitive. It's almost as if he's letting the rear of the car come around a bit more. But from there, we look to Shillcock here. He's going to look for the move on Powelsland. Powelsland has been struggling. I'm going to go defensive, in fact, James Powelsland here. This is going to cause this whole pack to bunch up again. And, well, as we look back from the rear at the Pace Worx eSports Mercedes, now coming onto the inside. And I believe that's a slowdown he's having to serve there as a result. And that gets very elbows out between Nils Placage and Daniel Shillcock. And Ruben Berings goes down the outside in. Now, does he get ahead? Yes, he does. I think Powelsland was serving a slowdown down for cutting track limits through the VDOL chicane, because you can take in a very aggressive line, but get it wrong and you end up picking up a time penalty. And Nils Bakaj going to go defensive now as Daniel Shillcock get the bit between his teeth. Ruben Berings tries to go around the outside with him, and they all go deep here. The two pros trying to go around the outside to the inside of the elite drivers here, and well, Powelsland falls in behind them, but Nils Bakaj right now has the unenviable task, which is to keep the two championship contenders in the pro class behind him to make sure he doesn't get caught out versus Powelsland. But Ruben Berings now is going to be absolutely assailed here by James Powelsland as they come out of turn number 4. Up towards 5 they go. Side by side they roar. You can see a flash of the headlights there from Daniel Shillcock. He's not happy on Nils Bakaj being in his way. However, I don't think the memo is being applied to right now, which is, well, they're all free to race. And as they roar the way down through turns 6 and 7, we understand these drivers right now, they'll all be thinking about their own championship aspirations. But you can imagine the pro drivers here, they'll be absolutely screaming their heads off, get the elite drivers out the way. They're being a problem. Well, if your name's Daniel Shillcock, I think you'll be hoping if you can kill Nils Bakaj, you can put 2 elites between yourself and Ruben Berings, and you can run away with that pro lead, or at least that would be his target. And indeed, he'll want to just absolutely gap his rival as much as humanly possible. Casper Brotner's only a second behind. He's also in the YouTube chat as he raises a proverbial beer emoji there. And if he is having a drink right now, we'd love to know what he's drinking there and whether he'd recommend it. But as we do see Casper Brotner in 3rd place on our screens, right now he's getting a little bit closer to Ruben Berings. He's been aided somewhat by the altercation between the two pro drivers and the elite drivers in front. However, let's not rule out Casper Brotner here, because he could play a bit of an outside element and get himself nice and close in amongst all the fighting, and we will see what he's going to be able to do. But from them, well, we do come back to Jordan Jones here as he picks his way past up the inside of James Connolly. And, well, these two right now, they do seem to be absolutely enjoying an absolute ding-dong battle between them. However, do keep in mind here that James Connolly missing a whole front bumper of that McLaren. It doesn't normally look like that, but that's where he lost the front bumper in the early stages of the race. It came shearing off at turn number 11 when there was that big moment between Daniel Pace and Krista Halsoy. And, well, James Connolly was one of the number of drivers who got caught up. But right now, make no mistake, they're getting caught up in a brilliant 2 wide there through VDOL, and Jordan Jones, to be fair, maybe a rookie driver, but he's definitely showing knowledge of how to go 2 wide through the fast chicane. And now Krista Halsoy gets on the back of this and says, well, don't mind if I do, gentlemen. I think Jordan and also James Connolly now, or if you're looking behind them and thinking, okay, player 3 has just joined the game. Further behind, well, we do have the battle of the right to not be last out on circuit, and it's the battle between Alex Brown and Darren Giacovelli for 3rd place in the rookies. Giacovelli back on the attack, and once they come down into that braking zone, well, Brown going a little bit defensive there to the inside of the Yokohama hairpin, and that's going to give Giacovelli an opportunity here to try and look all the way around the outside. And well, the one thing you can go for is essentially cutback runs for each of these corners. You can defer to later apexes, which is what Giacovelli is trying to do in the Swazi Gold machine. There's a little bit deep there at turn number 3. However, he'll now correct his mistake by really snapping late at turn number 4, but it looks like Brown, they've got a much better exit, and that's the difference between the two of them. But from them, well, meanwhile, we've had an off-dash. Jordan Jones has taken a trip to the weeds at turn number 7. And, well, that is going to be James Connolly, Krista Halsoy, and then Matt Edmondson, who just about gets on the inside here and squeezes his way through. Down the hill they go in towards the hairpin, and Jones will fall down to 24th place overall. However, keep in mind the fact that he's still got a 6.5 second gap to Alex Brown. However, he'll block chase after Richard Jones, and we'll put you in the class standings perspective. Richard Jones is already the best part of 15 seconds clear of Jordan at this time, so therefore it is going to require Jordan to have to get his head down and for a little bit of lady luck to strike against Richard Jones potentially. However, we'll have to wait to see what happens over the distance. Meanwhile, coming back to the midfield, and this is 5th place pro runner Cy Anthony, who's enjoying a bit of fun here with the Amber Jack Barker, and Nathan Scott's not too far behind, with Nathan Scott being in the Empire Motorsport Porsche. And I do believe the Empire team, whilst they may not be the team they once were, well, from speaking to Nathan Scott in the pit lane, he was saying he can't let the livery go, to be fair. He absolutely loves the livery on the car, and well, I can definitely tell you one thing out, all the liveries here, they're all brilliant liveries on the cars, but the Empire Motorsport one is always going to take a little bit of place in my heart, because, well, it's gone through multiple evolutions, it's gone through multiple team names over the course of 3 years of broadcasting for them on the grid. And I'll tell you one thing, those liveries definitely do catch an eye or two. And as he roars right now, the Porsche 992 driver here, well, he's close versus Jack Barker and Anthony, but he needs to be a little bit close if he wants to try and make some magic happen. But speaking of the magic right now, well, I'm not quite sure what Sean Cranleigh-Swash has got magically happening at Mustang, but he is able to keep Darren Sharples at 3 seconds or thereabouts. The gap between the two of them is gradually expanding little by little. In fact, the last lap it expanded by quite a sizable 6/10. I think Sharples having a bit of a nightmare lap by comparison with Cranleigh-Swash, but the average lap delta has gradually seen the two of them expand their gap rather than contract together. Jack Barker, meanwhile, has now got slight anti looking up his inside here. Well, I think that's Barker trying to go for the move, in fact. Let me correct myself. Barker going outside to inside, gets it done, but then here comes Nathan Scott and says, do you mind if I make it a menage a trois? And, well, slight anti tucks back in there. Nathan Scott goes for a 2-for-1 special here under braking into turn 11. Where on earth has this come from for Nathan Scott? Well, we actually love to see it. Slight anti now comes back in as Jack Barker boxes Scott in towards turn number 12. And now Anti's going to be on the attack here as we ride on board, looking down over the nose, the UK Sim Racing Price McLaren. And goodness me, what a run there from Nathan Scott. The speed he picked up on the exit of the Schumacher S. Site Anthony really had no speed. Jack Barker got through, and then suddenly Nathan Scott, he was able to pick up the double draft, plus the fact as well the two cars in front of him went off racing line. And at the best part, I'd say about 6 miles an hour more speed into the braking zone for what was turn number 11 by comparison. But in the end, as they roar the way onwards, well, right now they reset back to this battle, but it's now Jack Barker who's running third in the AM class, but at the best part of 13th place overall. Nathan Scott looking up the inside of Barker here. Don't think Barker's going to fight it too hard, or is he? Well, he is going to hold outside to inside here. Science right now, I think he's got a devil on his shoulder saying, can I make it 3 wide? And the angel on his shoulder saying, just be patient here. Comes a little bit of an opportunity. Well, he looks up the inside there, coming down in towards turn number 3. But the Welshman right now decides it's not worth it. Instead, he's going to see the two fight each other as they continue to weave and wind their way through the AMG arena. And that Acura right now does have very good low-speed traction, as does the Porsche. Meanwhile, the McLaren has to wait on as Nathan Scott now tries to get his nose just out the inside there into turn number 6. Gets Barker to go deep. Problem is now it's a left into right there. And it's going to mean that Nathan Scott's now got to go all the way round. Slight anti tries to squeeze his way back in, but he can't because Nathan Scott says, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm going to close the door on you just a little bit to make it difficult for you. So the UK Sim Racing Price driver once again has to wait. Nathan Scott here is really good at this juggling act. Oh, that's a big slide there from Barker. The rear of the Acura letting go a little bit, and well, the relationship between himself and his car starting to come to a rears here as they head through the Schumacher S. But now Barker off racing line, defensive through the Schumacher S's. Nathan's got backs off intention there to make sure he doesn't lose momentum. Slight anti can't repeat what was done to him only moments ago. That's a big prang on the rear of Barker's car. Nathan Scott just under braking, clipping the rear of Barker, and well, Barker goes on. Nathan Scott backs off there, and I think he's got some damage on the car, much like Barker, but that completely brings that battle to a halt. There goes the rear bumper of Jack Barker's car. Barker's car, I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be coming into the pit shortly, because that is a big prang on both cars. And Slight Ansley, well, he backs off there as well. I'm not quite sure why he does. I think he might have picked up a slowdown for running a bit wide, but the fact of the matter is, in all of it, Hendrik Zilka, well, the Ferrari racing driver, just suddenly goes, you know what, if you're all going to come into blows with each other, I'll just take third place off of Barker and move into third in the AM class. And he just makes his way through. I think he's wondering what exactly has happened there. Well, if he's tuning in right now, he'll now know as to exactly what's happened there as he makes his way down towards turn number 1. But Barker and Scott, I think they've actually redressed their positions, and well, if so, they've been able to get away with it. But that looks as though the rear left suspension and wheel had been heavily hit by Nathan Scott, but perhaps they've been able to get away with it this time. But definitely absolutely close, and we have confirmation there from Site Anti to say that Nathan slowed to let Jack have the position back. And well, these three right now all very close together as Barker goes out wide. I get the feeling that will be the suspension really coming to haunting now. And well, I think Barker trying to get used to the car. He'll have to slow down there to give back the time he's effectively gained by taking a rallycross approach to the exit of turn number 4. But Jack Barker's race right now, he's got a fast repair available, but the problem is he's only 19 minutes into the race distance, and I think he will want to go a little bit deeper before he does use his asset there of the fast repair. So now Nathan Scott, well, he's still got a car that's running well. Anthony looks around the outside. They're giving us plenty of entertainment here, no doubt about it. And as they head up the hill, 2 wide they go, with Ryan Davies watching this behind. Teammate to Nathan Scott here as they come through left into right. It's going to be elbow to elbow, door to door, and well, no stopping between these two. They're keeping things on absolute ice as they roar the way in towards turn number 11. Nathan Scott goes very deep. That's way too deep there. Going up towards Bilstein curve, he'll rejoin Science. He gives him the premium room to rejoin, and Ryan Davies now rubs doors with his teammate there. And Nathan Scott in the end backs off, and Ryan Davies comes on through as well. Well, this fight for 5th in Pro class is absolutely blown up to boiling point here, although somehow they're preventing it from overheating. As they come in towards the VRS chicane, I think they'll take a brief breather at the moment, and goodness me, we need a breather from that one. That was absolutely brilliant racing between them, but unfortunately there, well, Jack Barker being the victim of a bit of contact, which I think when they look back at it, all three reflect it was just absolutely close racing, and it's what's happened. And well, I wouldn't be surprised if Nathan Scott's owned up to that one, because racing that close and the braking zones, that is the way it is going to go sometimes. When you're racing that tight, it's millimetres that are the difference between you making contact and you making the ultimate lunge under braking. But as they take a brief pause for a moment, we come back to the front of the field. And the man who's not seeing any drama at the moment is Stuart Reynolds, albeit the Fury Simsport driver's got to have a little bit of a thought in his mind, which is, I'm leading, but have I got enough fuel to feel safe versus this man behind in second? Because Daniel Stasuk right now, well, the one thing we do know about the balance of performance for this season of the GT3s is that the Ford Mustang is perhaps the most thirsty on its fuel tank out of the leading cars in the elite class, and Stuart Reynolds sometimes has had to spend the best part of 2 to 3 seconds extra in the pit lane compared to his rivals, and whatever his rivals do, Daniel Stasuk will normally fuel the car for a second less. So effectively, Daniel Stasuk right now, if he's within 4 seconds of Stuart Reynolds in the pits, that might put them on parity come the exit of the pit lane. We will see, but there's a way to go, and it is also circuit dependent, of course, as they roar the way through. And well, as everybody comes on around, we do see there Nathan Scott saying in the YouTube chat he still feels bad about the contact, but at the same time, the fact that with that, feeling a little bit guilty, but it's absolutely brilliant racing. I don't think anybody can take it from the trio there, even from the man who the stewards would look at and go, well, you did hit the back of Jack Barker, but to be fair, well, it happened in the racing, and that's what the spirit's all about. But as we do look to Stasuk, Dolezal and Kruken, they're all still literally nose to tail as Stuart Reynolds. It's a new fastest lap of the race, 8:52.827. He is running off into a distance for these laps at the moment, as he now puts a further 4 attempts over Daniel Stasuk, and I think he's very eager to try and break away here, because if he doesn't, then he is at risk of being overhauled in the pit stops. So that's going to be on his mind, no doubt about it. All these drivers continuing just to press onwards. Meanwhile, we do look a bit further back, and this is Richard Jones and Jack Barker. And Barker's still limping along in his Acura, and the rookie lead now is going to pick up an overall position as he goes down the inside from the start-finish straight into Yokohama he goes, and as he does so, well, he's just going to make that move stick. But a lovely bit of standard braking there, and will make it happen nice and succinctly. Further up the order, the Castle Broughton and Brett Berings are coming together, and we haven't seen too much from these two over the last couple of rounds, particularly from Brett Berings as the Audi R8 driver. We ride on board the front bumper, and well, the wonderful machine that has been retired from factory racing, but it is still raced as a customer GT3 car, albeit it is being withdrawn from the grid of a number of series around the world as of next year, including the IMSA grid, and therefore you'll see it disappear in certain official series in iRacing, but the Audi will still live on immortalised here in iRacing in its final draft, of course. It's gone through 3 generations of cars since its arrival on the GT3 grids of 2015 onwards, but the Audi R8 LMS here will still stand the test of time with a wonderful roar of its 4.8 litre V10 engine. There's only one other car that runs a V10 engine on the GT3 grid, and that is the Lamborghini Huracan Mark II, albeit that soon is going to be replaced by a brand new Lamborghini machine, the Trofeo, I believe it's known as. Well, I'm not quite sure as what the power plant of that car is, as Brett Berings here stays nice and close to Bruckner, but can't find a way through at the moment. And again, this difference of the performance of the two cars, when you see that Mercedes just able to run away on the straight, but Brett Berings, meanwhile, when he's going through the corners, particularly the lower speed corners, this Audi's got so much rotation that it's able to close up very nicely. As these two make their way on to what for them is now going to be lap number 14. Well, we're heading towards the midway point of this race. We've still got a bit of time to go, and with that time, it's time for Daniel Shillcock and James Powelsland to once again go battling door to door. And Powelsland up the inside there, and Ruben Berings are going to look at this and go, okay, here's my chance. And I think Daniel Shillcock at this point, well, I think he's decided to let Powelsland go, because otherwise the two of them exchanging blows, it can only put Shillcock at risk, because Berings goes very late under braking there. That's very bold, my goodness. Well, that, I'm getting the feeling that's flashbacks there to George Russell and Charles Leclerc at Zandvoort only the weekend just passed. I wonder if that was inspired there, but as he switches from one side to the other, Ruben Berings right now is not hanging around at all as we ride on board with the Porsche 992 driver in the 91. And well, if he goes for another lunge like that, I think it's going to be a question of when, not if, the two of them are going to exchange paint and with it insurance details. But as they come down towards turn number 8, well, Ruben here decides not to go for for it this time, but definitely keeping Daniel Shillcock guessing every corner and every braking zone as to what is going to happen between the two. But look at the exit he gets off of turn number 8. Berings right now, he's been really saving up for this. I wouldn't be surprised he's been protecting the tyres for the first 20 minutes because Daniel Shillcock just not getting any traction off that hairpin. And as they roll the way in towards turn number 11, well, now we come towards the more open section of the circuit. This is where we'd expect the McLaren to be able to match the Porsche. It does seem as though it's going that way as the V8 twin turbo versus the flat 6 of the Porsche. Well, it is that V8 that's running off into the distance a bit. Also, Berings there making a bit of a mistake coming through turn number 12. Too early on the throttle, understeer, some gravel, and well, as a result, losing the best part of half a second there as he makes his way in towards the V-Dol chicane. I'm going for here. Look at the speed Berings carrying, but just a little bit too aggressive again with the throttle response coming through turn 15. Sends him out wide. Berings has got so much motivation right now. He's just got to keep it in check a little bit, and he will be right back there and going all the way for it. No doubt about it. And as he powers away down the straight, of course, time is running out in this race. 34 minutes. It sounds like a long time, but for these drivers, that time flies by. I can assure you, in the cockpit there, it really does just disappear off into distance when you know a championship's on the line and you are running out of time to get back into lead and put that championship back in your grasp. But we'll see what he's going to be able to do as these two make the way on through. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, we have had a bit more drama for Krista Halsway, the backmarker of the Pro class at this point, as Matthew Shelton's coming to the pit lane. And also looking at my commentary booth window, I've just seen that Made for Racing have put the pit stall away for Jack Barker, who has come into the pits and has gone for the repair work and also for the fuel to take him to the end of the race unscathed in capacity. But with our racers now getting a little bit closer towards 30 minutes complete, will we see any others wilt to the pit lane? Well, that is going to be the big question we need an answer to. Matt Edmondson's in the pit lane as well, so it does seem as though it's the Matthews in the pit lane at the moment, but I'm sure we'll see other drivers that are not named Matt or Matthew coming in due course. And of course, the big question mark at the very front of the field, has Stuart Reynolds done enough to be able to make his way into the pit lane and come back out ahead of these three, particularly Daniel Stasuk as the NJB performance driver right now in the 733. He doesn't need to win today. He's already won the Elite Championship, barring unless he picks up an absolutely sensational penalty, albeit I do believe the admins have said to all the drivers here, keep it smart, keep it sensible coming to the season finale, and I get the feeling that all the drivers here today will have a sensible head on them. As that's not a sensible head there. That was very close to crippling the front right suspension, that Acura. And Pavel Dolezal says, okay, don't mind if I do. And well, the two rivals to the championship all season long. Dolezal on the inside here as they power their way down the straight. Onto a 16th lap they go. And we'll Stasuk on that outside, able to get the power down a little bit more comfortably. But look at that Mercedes go. It's V8 versus V6 into the braking zone. They do have a Giacomelli on the inside in the form of our rookie driver. And as they make the way through the corner, well, Giacomelli there will stay on the outside. Respect the blue flag. Sees them coming, and well, Pavel Dolezal does go around the outside there to take second place of Daniel Stasuk, and Tobias Kruken still waiting in the wings here as we ride on board the front bumper of your number 14 driver from Solpec Precision Racing. And well, for Tobias, he's definitely building us up to a bit of a crescendo here. He's been watching and waiting for a very long time tucked in behind these two, and I think he just wants one opportunity to go for this, but when he's going to go for it, he'll keep us all guessing as he makes his way left into right. And we're coming down through turn number 6. Such an easy corner to overstep, because you think after flying through turn number 6, it's such an easy corner to get towards the apex, until you suddenly realise that in fact the way you go down through that corner, it's off camber on entry and cambered on the exit. It's a very tricky corner to get right, and you have to brake a lot earlier than you think you would need to because of how downhill it is in the initial braking phase. But making their way uphill right now. Kruken still close to Stasuk and Dolezal, but nothing between them, at least for now. And from them, we've had a bit of drama for Richard Jones quite recently. I think Richard Jones had a bit of an incident. And, well, we do have the opportunity to get a replay of some moments in the race, ladies and gentlemen. And here we go. Now, this was only moments ago for Richard Jones, leader of the rookie class by the best part of 15 seconds. Through turn 2, a little bit of a slide there on corner exit, and into turn 3, very aggressive on the brake in the rear of the car, letting go even more. So the rookie leader not prone to a mistake or two, and proving that definitely there, and well, getting it all out of sorts. But I'm sure Jones will pick things back up very quickly. But meanwhile, from all of that, we come back to your live racing. And as we do, well, there's Jones now carrying his journey up to speed, and as he does so, well, meanwhile, we look back to Dolezal, Stasuk and Kruken, and more of these three still together here as they reach the halfway point of the race, going on to now a 17th lap, and that will be into 30 minutes complete. We've still got another 30 to go, plus the final lap, and Stasuk here right now bobbing and weaving his way, but this fighting has now seen the gap to Stuart Reynolds open up to 4.5 seconds, and the Furious Simsport driver at this point surely got to be having the confidence now coming, which is he's just got to maintain his race, and he will be leading this one after he comes out the pit lane. Look into the overall positions there between all of our drivers. You can see them all on the timing tower there as they're all gradually updated. And well, not too much change afoot at the moment. We will wait to see what's coming on out. But we do have in mind 7th through to 10th is your top 4 in the Pro class, and they are separated by 5 seconds in all, with first and second separated by only 4 tenths, and then third and fourth separated by only 4 tenths as well. When you do the mathematics there, it does mean we have an absolutely brilliant set of battles for the Pro podium and also the Pro Championship crown for Shillcock versus Ruben Berings, with Brett Berings meanwhile trying to hold on to third place in that championship, trying to steal it back from Krista Halsoy, and Casper Brotner really being the man in the middle to try and mix it all up. But what's on your screen right now is the battle for second in the elite class for a brief moment, and then we come to the battle which we were only talking about moments ago, and this is the Pro lead battle right now, Shillcock versus Ruben Berings. These two have definitely been very elbows out towards each other, and that's an understatement, I get the feeling, but I also think that whilst these two definitely have looked very aggressive towards each other, there is also a mutual respect between them, and Ruben Berings right now still giving that chase as they head up towards the Vidal chicane for this time of asking. But powering on down, and well, neither driver willing to wilt here to come into the pit lane, and understandably so, because of the fact they don't want to risk coming out in any form of traffic. And the fuel load to these cars will mean that they can probably go the best part of what is 40 minutes into the race, so when the clock's got 20 minutes left to remain on it, before they do have to force themselves into the pit lane. But we will see which of these drivers goes first. But whoever goes first, they'll be going for an undercut. But if they come out with a bit of traffic around them, that undercut is suddenly going to look very compromised. And that is why neither one really wants to reveal the hand. Brett Berings, meanwhile, well, he could throw a little bit of an interesting question into conundrum here, and I do wonder whether DDK are perhaps on the radio to the two sister teams right now, asking themselves the question between none other than Digital Motor Art and also Race Anywhere, the two sister teams of DDK, or whether Brett Berings chooses to pit early and forces a bit of pressure onto Daniel Shillcock by getting that Audi into potentially some clear air, or just using it as a bit of a marker to see where it comes out. And then, subsequently, Ruben Berings can understand, okay, if he comes into the pits, where's he going to be? Well, it's a fault. Whether that fault's transpired or not, I suspect it has, but the team will have their own strategy in store. Well, with Nathan Scott into the pit lane, he's coming in from what was at the time 5th place in the Pro class, and well, he's going to have a bit of a lonely existence on pit exit, as there goes the Empire Motorsport Porsche. And in fact, I think he's going to have Ryan Davies, his teammate, just coming up behind him, so the two Porsche drivers from Empire Motorsport are reunited, and they are pretty much as they were before Ryan Davies came into the pit lane, albeit the gap between the two of them brought back down to 1.3 seconds coming out to turn number 1. As they bring themselves back together there and they continue their journey, well, the question will be, what will Cy Anthony do in response here? Because right now, you can imagine that the number 27 driver here is enjoying a very comfortable run by himself. He really is the best of the rest of the pros at the moment, because the top 4 have formed their own battle. And then it's the Cy Anthony versus Nathan Scott and Ryan Davies battle for 5th, 6th and 7th in the Pro class. And Matthew Sheridan and Krista Halsoy are in a bit of a distant no man's land further back. And right now for Cy Anthony, he's got to have the faith that going for the overcut, or what just used to be known as going long in the heyday, well, he's got to have that confidence that by just staying out on the circuit, well, firstly, he's going to have a lot less fuel in the car towards the end of the race when he goes on to his second stint. And therefore, if he does change any tyres over, the tyres that he has changed are not going to feel anywhere near as much wear as they would have done with a higher fuel load. But for Cy Anthony, strategy right now seems to be stay out there for as long as humanly possible. The same can be said for the very front of the field, as Stuart Reynolds carries on another lap. He goes on to a 19th tour of the circuit under race conditions, and Pavel Dolezal, well, he's still there in second, with Daniel Stasuk and Tobias Kruken with him. These three literally nose to tail. They've been that way for so long now. We've lost the number of laps they've been this way. In fact, they've been this way since lap number 3. Now I double check through my records, and well, the 191 driver here definitely doing everything right in that Mercedes, but the Acura Daniel Stasuk does not give in at any point. And well, we saw it at Silverstone. for Daniel Stasuk. A difficult day there in the United Kingdom in the fact that the Silverstone circuit, at the rear of the car, just refusing to stay pointed, and Alberto really commenting on the fact the two of them fought very hard. Unfortunately, the Effect Simulations driver not here today, but in his McLaren as well was struggling for rear end grip, but Daniel Stasuk's car was more sideways than pointed straight towards the end of the race. He somehow kept it together, but the NJP Performance driver will be very happy that he sealed the deal at Silverstone, and that as a result he doesn't have the pressure on him today, because otherwise I can imagine this could be a very different conundrum, because Dolezal, well, he's definitely shown as the season has gone, and he's not afraid to get absolutely stuck in. He's just not had the pace when it's mattered most versus his rival, and that has really been the delta between the two of them. But heading up the rise and in towards VRS chicane, that's where they go, and will all of them stay out on circuit, as behind Daniel Shillcock still lead in the class for now in pro header Ruben Berings, and well, neither one opting to come into the pits as of yet. What about Brett Berings or Casper Brotner? And the answer between these two is, well, one is into the pits. Casper Brotner decides to pull the trigger, and Sean Cranleigh-Swash comes in from the AM lead as well, so he decides it's time to make his way, and he's got a comfortable 6.5 second gap over Darren Sharples, and well, that gap is more than plenty for him to feel confident. Sharples meanwhile stays out there, and the old dudes in cars driver, I think right now, will be thinking, okay, I've got to get my head down because I've got a couple of laps of clear air here before I need to come into the pit, and what can the McLaren driver do? Also keep in mind the fact that the McLaren does have a better fuel consumption rate compared to that Ford Mustang, so therefore it will be in his interest to make the most of it and try and go deeper into the race, and therefore save the amount of fuel he's got to put in the car at the end of it. The old dudes in cars driver here, first and foremost, has got to deliver these laps. They've got to be qualifying laps now before he comes into the pits to give himself every opportunity to try and at least get close to the championship leader, if not get ahead of him. Hendrik Zilka, meanwhile, well, he's running a very solid run in what is effectively third place in the AM class, and the Venari racing driver here, well, if he carries on this way, well, this is going to be one of his finest results of the season, and we'd have to look quite some time back before his last opportunity to chase down a podium, and well, that last opportunity to chase down a podium was, well, in fact it was his season opening race at the Magny-Cours circuit where he pulled off an absolutely brilliant drive to a podium on his debut, but since then the nearest he's had is a fourth place at Interlagos in round number 7, so therefore 2 podiums over the season for only competing in the second half of the season. I think that's going to be a big smile on his face if he's able to pull that off. But coming back to Nathan Scott and Ryan Davies, these two have just swapped places, and it is Ryan Davies getting ahead, but then suddenly Nathan Scott back up the inside of him as they come through turn number 3. 2 in they go, 2 out will they exit? Yes, they do. They swap back, they switch back, and it is now Ryan Davies back ahead on the inside on the exit of turn number 4, and they power the way onwards down towards turn number 6. And Nathan Scott here, he's not giving up this one, but he finally does, respecting the fact it's not going to work. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Pavel Dolezal continues this race unabated. He's now your leader with Stuart Reynolds into the pit lane, and also Daniel Stasuk and Tobias Krug, and James Powelsland goes another lap. And it seems like Pace Worx eSports once again in the Mercedes AMG Evo machines have found a way to get an extra lap in this race. Now that could be important because of the fact if they are going longer, well, they may have a much shorter pit time by comparison. We saw at Silverstone how well this worked out in the battle between the Ford Mustangs and the Mercedes AMGs over the distance, and it was this extra lap that made the difference in the pit stops. Stuart Reynolds leads the pit lane as he does. Where is Daniel Stasuk behind him? There he is. So our leader comes back out in third, and between himself and Stasuk is a gap of the best part of 2.5 seconds. So Stuart Reynolds has passed the first test in this exam to take the win of the final race of the season, which is make sure you don't get leapt in the pits by the man who can save so much fuel on an Acura. It's unreal. Stasuk was able to cut the gap down by 2 seconds in the stationary time in the pit lane, but it's not been enough. He hasn't been able to make that magic happen quite as we saw earlier in the season. So now for Stuart Reynolds, the only question is, can he beat the Mercedes machines at their own game on fuel? Well, we'll see what he's going to be able to do. As we say hello there to Tall Stew 512 in the YouTube chat. Something tells me that might be Stuart Reynolds there in the YouTube. If it is Stuart, hello to you, and I hope you're doing well. But as everyone continues to run around, it's definitely getting interesting here, and it's big brain strats in the elite class. A slight anti there derogatory refers to his strategy of just carrying on out until the fuel tank expires as a small brain strats. But to be fair, whether it's small or big brained or somewhere in between, well, right now it's definitely, there's plenty of strategies out there, and we're still waiting to see how they all come together, because everybody's pitted apart from our 2 leaders now. And in fact, where are our leaders on circuit? Well, Pavel Dolezal has gone, and no, he's into the pit, and I was going to say he's not gone another lap. Surely that's extreme and excessive, but he stays on his course then in towards the pit lane, and James Powelsland comes in as well with 21 minutes left on the clock. And well, well. Now into the final third of the race distance. But both of them coming down. Where is Reynolds? Here he is, heading up towards Vidal. He does have a comfortable gap over Daniel Stasuk of 2 seconds. He is coming down a little bit. However, Reynolds has had to deal with the traffic of Darren Sharples. That might be an explainer as he makes his way through the final corner. Will roaring his way around. There he goes. And with the blimp camera quite far away at the moment, you can see there the Pace Worx eSports cars towards the end of the pit lane. There, here comes Reynolds past them. And as he does, well, there is none other than Powelsland. And Dolezal leaving the pits right now. But has he come back out ahead of Daniel Stasuk? And the answer is no, he hasn't. And it hasn't worked out for Pace Worx eSports. They've dropped back behind of Dolezal. Tobias Kruken returns to 4th place. Niels Bacage moves up into 5th. And James Powelsland's race goes even further backwards. He's now into 6th in the elite class. That is a surprise and not a welcome one, to be certain. Powelsland has just not had things click together whatsoever today. Whereas for Pavel Dolezal, his teammate, things have partially clicked together until Daniel Stasuk has jumped his way into 2nd place. Through the pit stops, he's put 2 seconds over Dolezal, and now he's got to try and chase down Stuart Reynolds for what will be the final win of the season. Stuart Reynolds, of course, will be digging in as much as he possibly can as he confirms it is here who's Tall Stew 512 in the YouTube chat, and that is a username that completely runs off the tongue there. I love the rhyme and synergy. And well, as we do see Daniel Stasuk on the move, well, what's happening elsewhere? Well, elsewhere in the pro class, Daniel Shillcock is still leader ahead of Ruben Berings, and in fact the gap between the two of them has opened up, and this in the pit stops was a delta of 2 seconds there. It was a delta of half a second between the two of them in terms of their stationary times. Daniel Shillcock putting a bit less fuel in the car and having a better end-to-end pit stop as a result. And Ruben Berings, by comparison, then consuming a bit more fuel by being aggressive in the early stage of the race, and therefore now having to really try and wind that gap back in. Brett Berings is not too far behind, only 4 seconds off. In fact, 5 seconds now the gap has opened up. So therefore it does mean all these drivers right now, well, they're in the closing stages, and the Audi R8 driver Brett Berings, he's been able to get clear and ahead of Casper Brotner comfortably by the best part of 3 seconds as Brotner continues to try and chase him down. But I think it's going to be a question of if he can get a bit closer rather than when, because right now the two have been very evenly matched in that hunt for 3rd place since the start of the race. As the AM class, it's Sean Cranleigh-Swash who still leads for Pigeon Racing. Well, right now, he's absolutely roaring his way towards that championship crown as Darren Sharples, well, as much as he's huffing and puffing, I don't think Sharples has really got an answer in the old dudes in cars McLaren. It does seem as though that Ford Mustang is just a little bit ahead lap after lap on pace. In fact, we'll find out this time, because as Sean Cranleigh-Swash crosses the line, it's a 54.228. For Sharples, meanwhile, what's it going to be here as he hits the time line? It's a 55.135. That is not a happy lap. That's a second loss there to Cranleigh-Swash, and that is going to be the delta between the two of them. As Hendrik Zilka, meanwhile, he sits in 3rd, and in fact, he's closing up to the back of Sharples. I wonder if the Venari Racing driver here, if he can keep stringing these laps together, I wonder whether he's on course for potentially a challenge for 2nd place in that Acura that's looking to be the most stable Acura of all the 3 or 4 cars here today under the American Honda badge. He does have quite a bit of a gap to Jack Barker, who is 10 seconds behind him. And make no mistake, Jack Barker, after that faster pair, has actually been hustling a little bit. He's made up quite a bit of time over the race distance, and the Made for Racing driver has not given up yet after that slight prang on the rear by Nathan Scott in that brilliant freeway battle between the pair, plus also Cy Ansley. But unfortunately, it did come to slight arrears, and well, Jack Barker was the one who paid the price. But as he roars his way on through, Ryan Davies, meanwhile, just a bit further up the road, he's still keeping Nathan Scott behind. And these two swapped places a few laps ago, and maybe you may be wondering how exactly did they swap places. Well, have we got a replay on standby to explain? Yes, we have, and here is the replay to show you exactly how they end up battling with each other. So we take a look back then, this was the Ryan Davies-Nathan Scott battle, and it all began on the exit of the final quarter with Nathan Scott there having a bit of a run wide moment, and Ryan Davies deciding just to go up the inside. Well, it was a run down, a bit of a tap between the two of them, Nathan Scott coming across there, and I think realising at the last moment he didn't want to come across any further, as otherwise the two drivers would become entangled. But that made them all the way down in towards Yokohama, and as they did, Nathan Scott getting a much better run through the corner, but Davies most importantly having the inside line. A bit of a rub there as they made their way through turn number 2. That's when run deep and wide. Nathan Scott went back up the inside to try and go for the counter attack through turn number 3, but then quickly recognising it goes from left into right, Ryan Davies said, well, that's good, but it's not quite good enough. and managed to take the place back there as they then sprinted the way out towards turn number 6, and that's when Nathan Scott had to give up the charge. But what a great little ding-dong battle between those two. They may be teammates, but absolutely showing each other great respect as we do come back to your live racing. So as we come back then, not long to go over the distance, and well, 16 minutes and counting from all of our drivers here, and well, as they all continue to push towards the conclusion. Well, it does seem as though, at the moment at least, the battles have calmed down for a brief moment. However, never say never. Stuart Reynolds continues to try and roar off into the distance as quickly as he can. The pressure is still definitely on him with only a 3-second gap. And well, Daniel Stasuk will be there immediately. Should Reynolds drop the ball even slightly, you can imagine the NJB performance driver in his Acura will be ready to pounce. He's watching like a hawk right now for the opportunity to try and go on the attack. The fastest lap of the race still in the hands of Stuart Reynolds, 1 minute 52.827. They'll set all the way back on lap number 12, so Reynolds definitely the fastest of the drivers out there, albeit Daniel Stasuk, the only other driver over the race distance to set a 52.966, his personal best, as he goes up the inside there of rookie leader Richard Jones. And Jones just steps aside there. In fact, that's not Richard Jones, that's Alex Brown. I'll double check the door numbers. So Alex Brown there, the third place rookie driver, just carrying on his way. A lap put on top of him, but to be fair, I don't think he'll be too upset about that, because he is on course to nab another podium in the rookie class today. But in terms of number of laps we're expecting, well, we're going on to lap number 25. We'll expect another 7 after this to make it a grand total probably of 32 laps, if my mathematics is correct. And well, Nathan Scott coming back at Ryan Davies with sight, and he's still 4 minutes up the road as we take a quick sip of water. As these two continue to push each other onwards, we ride on board the dashboard here of Nathan Scott. And the Empire Motorsport driver here looking to just have fun with his teammate at this point as they make their way down towards turn number 1. But as they do, well, what's it going to be between them? Well, Nathan Scott takes a quick look to the inside, but he's nowhere near enough to go for the move. I think that's all a little bit of posturing politics there in terms of positioning the car on the inside to say to Ryan Davies, look at me, not your braking zone. But Davies paying no attention to him whatsoever and heading through the AMG arena. Well, Scott close, but not quite close enough here as they roll the way through left-hander. But you can definitely tell the difference in racing lines. Ryan Davies really having to let the car sweep, taking very wide lines into these corners in order to hit the apexes. Nathan Scott, meanwhile, it doesn't matter how tight a line he seems to take under braking, he just finds a way to get the nose of this Porsche to dive in and the rear to turn around very quickly. And in fact, they're looking up the inside potentially into turn number 7. He was never going to go for the move, put him too far back, but definitely thought about it. As meanwhile, a change of place here, and that's around the outside for third place in the elite class and overall for Tobias Kruken. It looks like Pavel Dolezal may have had a bit of a poor run coming out of turn number 12, and Kruken moves up into third place. Well, look at that. And with the Solpec Precision Racing driver right now on a charge, and well, can he break away from Dolezal? That is now the next question that is going to confront him as we look at the overall standings there. Only a quarter of the race to go, if that, but Tobias Kruken definitely pushing onwards. And in terms of the last time we saw him finish on the podium, well, you'd have to look all the way back for Tobias Kruken, all the way back to none other, as he has a very tight run there into the apex of turn number 1. Well, he would have to look all the way back. His last podium came at the Mazzano circuit in round number 5 in what was an absolutely brilliant round of racing for him. Really where he established himself as a top 3 contender for each and every race. But it does look as though the Solpec Precision Racing driver right now in a good place, is in fact confirming there that it was a slowdown for Pavel Dolezal for track limits that in the end up costing him the ability to hold on to third place. But Dolezal now back on the attack. However, there's just one problem that Dolezal is now going to have when he looks in front of him and sees the rear of that Solpec Precision machine. Tobias Kruken doesn't give places back willingly. He will fight absolutely tooth and nail, fairly I should add. He's one of the fairest drivers out there that we've seen all season long, and indeed I think the UK Sim Racing community all the better for seeing him on the grid. But I tell you that Tobias Kruken right now, when he gets the bit between his teeth, he does not let a place go. He's shown it when he's attacked, but he's also shown it when he goes on the defense. He will make that AMG Mercedes so wide, in fact, that you would think you were going back to the 2013 SLS Mercedes car, if anybody remembers that from the Blancpain era of GT3 World Championship racing. But as they come charging around through turn number 12, a bit of dust kicked up there. That's Daniel Stasuk going a bit wide coming out of the right-hander. They're all making mistakes. In fact, Stasuk now leaving his gap to Stuart Reynolds up to 4 seconds. So it does seem as though there it's Stuart Reynolds' race now really to bear and run all the way to conclusion, as Dolezal having a very quick run there through the VDOL chicane by comparison, and Kruken meanwhile the headlights on here trying to see his way home all the way now. And well, after this another lap goes on the board, still 11 minutes left on the clock. It is a long journey to third place in the elite class, and Pavel Dolezal, well, he knows right now he's got plenty of opportunities to try and steal this back. Once the anchors they go, will there be a change this time? The answer is no, but he's getting much closer under braking there into the AMG arena. And it seems though in these heavy braking zones and also the much faster corners, as it was the back end of lap, that is where Dolezal has a bit more confidence. Kruken meanwhile is a bit faster in the low to medium speed corners when he's off the brakes. When it is a natural rotation, such as what's coming up at turns 6 and 7, that's where our number 14 driver, who we're riding on board with and looking back from the rear of, that's where he seems to have the slight advantage as he comes down the hill. And we can see that there's the concertina effect plays out, and the fact just able to roll the car into the throttle a little bit more happily, and it runs out wide there. I think a bit of mental pressure might be building. Dolezal here, 2 seconds of closing. He looks the inside, but decides not to. I think he's thinking about it, but he decides not this round. Next round he might go for it, as off camera we have had a retirement for a third driver from this race. Unfortunately, we've had Matt Edmondson have to be towed to the pit lane due to damage to the car, so he adds his name to a list of drivers that includes also Matthew Shepperton and Daniel Pace. So 27 starters, and we're now down to 24 runners, the last of which is Darren Sharples, the fourth and last place rookie driver. But as Kruken and Pavel Dolezal continue to be the focus of our cameraman's attention, well, these two right now continue to joust back and forth in the battle of the Mercedes machines at the home circuit for the company. There's no difference between the two at the moment, and there's always a big question, of course, of is there going to be any fuel saving required towards the end of the race, because these drivers, they normally fuel these cars as light as possible in the pit lane, but sometimes they get it wrong. But if they suddenly realise that an extra lap is going to be added to the race, and the reason for that, of course, is normally when you have a race leader who's not had any pressure on him or had to fight, and Stuart Reynolds, apart from some early pressure on the opening 2 laps, he's run away with this, and therefore he's pumping in the laps. Another 53.4 for Stuart Reynolds that last time round. We may, by accident, add an extra lap on in the distance. If my maths is correct, we're going to see 32 laps. But I wonder whether some drivers have perhaps predicted only 31 here, or thought it might be on the crossover point. Therefore, perhaps have gone for half an extra lap in the fuel tank and then saved the rest of it. But Kruken right now, if he has got to save any fuel, well, he's not giving any signs of it. And if he is, he's doing it very stealthily, because Pavel Dolezal is right behind him in the roar through the corners. But as they make the way onto the parts where Kruken is more confident in those medium speed apexes, well, he's been able to hold the gap there at least for the time being. A bit further up the, well, in fact, further down the order, I should say, James Powelsland, he's on the mission to try and get back to 5th place versus Niels Bocage, and well, he's now almost within a second here as he comes on through turn number 7. And well, the AMG driver, it's not about how you start a race, it's about how you end it, as we always say, and he's definitely trying to prove that adage right now in the fact that it could be very demotivating with the way the opening 20 minutes of this race played out, losing all those places and not able to get back into the fight, plus also the pit stop, falling behind the Ford Mustang in front of him. But the NJB performance car right now, well, it's not breaking away. In fact, it's been reeled in little by little in these closing laps of the day. And with 8 minutes to go, I think James Powelsland will have the confidence here that if he can bring this result home, take the 5th place off of Niels, he will end up finishing 3rd in the Elite Drivers' Championship, if my mathematics is correct. We'll see what he's going to be able to do. As from then, we look back to the pro class leader, and here he is, Daniel Shillcock. And well, the question you may be asking is, what happens if things finish as they currently stand for Daniel Shillcock? Well, the answer is, this would see him take the championship crown, I believe, by a slender margin. In fact, let me double check the mathematics. It would not, in fact, it would go to result count back if things were to finish as they currently stand. And, well, it would mean that Ruben Berings would take it because of the number of wins he's had versus Shillcock. So Shillcock right now, he needs a bit of magic to happen if he wants to take the pro crown. But here comes a battle between Kruken and Dolezal. And as they come through turn 1 in towards 2, the fight for 3rd very truly gets underway. And well, Kruken going defensive there through the first 2 quarters. A little bit of wobble under exit, and that's going to give Dolezal the opportunity to look up the inside. But now Kruken will go outside to inside through. They compress, they rub doors, and as they make them out the right-hander, well, they both survive it there. But Dolezal's not going to be too happy now as he gets right back in the tow. And it's the roar of 2 V8 machines, 6.3 litres in both of those cars, so 12.6 in total. And as they come charging down the hill, well, Dolezal's so close at this point that he could absolutely look for the lunge, but he's got to be smart about it, because get it wrong and suddenly they may find that Niels Bocage close up to this, because he's only 4 seconds back, and he is closing little by little as they head into the turn 8 hairpin. But on the way out of the corner, well, patience is always a virtue in these close situations where you're the chasing driver, because naturally you are at the whim of the driver in front in terms of where they brake and when they get back on the throttle. A mistake there for Kruger, too much entry curve. That sends him wide of apex at the start of the Schumacher S. Dolezal here has got a huge run heading up towards turn number 11. Looks around the outside. Kruger naturally goes defensive. Does he get it stopped to the apex? He does. Now puts himself right on the inside into turn number 12. Dolezal looks to cut back again. He's swinging. He's siphoning his way between the corners. And as they come in towards turn 30, it's a drag race here. Kruger goes one way. Dolezal now looks the other way. Goes all the way around the outside. It's a longer run, but if he gets the inside in towards Vito, it'll work. Kruger gives him the space to breathe. They tap slightly. They touch, and as they make the way in, well, it's a tap, but no love lost between the two of them. And Dolezal here right now, well, he's going to make his way to the pit lane, and surely that's not going to be a drive-through penalty for that contact, because if it is, my goodness, that is heartbreaking. And that's the second time this season that Dolezal has had an opportunity to finish on the podium, swiped from him as a result of a drive-through penalty for instant point, and that is gutting. Tobias Kruger carries on here, and was an absolutely nip and tuck battle between the two of them. Again, we're presuming that's why Dolezal's immediately tucked his way into the pits, although saying that, hold up, Ruben Berings is into the pit lane. He's coming in, and this is going to have major complications in the Pro Championship, because suddenly he's going to lose second, and if things were to stay as they are when he comes out the pit lane, it's going to go the way of Daniel Shillcock. No way! The DDK Racing Team drivers make his way down. If this is for a drive-through, it's for instant points picked up. I think it is. Yes, it is. And Ruben Berings, suddenly this championship is all going in the wrong direction. It's going backwards, not forwards. And Daniel Shillcock right now, surely he's got to look at his rearview mirror and look at his timing screens on the car and wondering where on earth has Ruben Berings gone. Well, Ruben Berings has gone all the way down to 4th place in the Pro class, and this is going to see Daniel Shillcock become champion if it finishes. We'll have to find out whether it's going to come all the way down, since we've still got 4 minutes to go. Don't count anything out, ladies and gents, but if there's anything you can predict about a UK Sim Racing Championship finale, is that anything happens in the final race of the season. It truly does. It's not scripted, I can promise you. They've taken the script, they've thrown it in the bin and set the bin on fire right now, and, well, absolutely running his way around his Shillcock. Brecht's Berings, meanwhile, well, he's still got a comfortable gap over Casper Brotner. So for Brecht at this point, it's really about being the consolatory DDK machine on that pro podium. As for the AM class, well, things seem to be a bit more straightforward, at least for now. Although now that I've said it, I've surely put the curse on Sean Cranleigh-Swash, because he's got 5.3 seconds advantage over Darren Sharples. He is lapping a bit slower compared to Sharples at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cranleigh-Swash has decided to take his foot off the gas entirely and not risk it, because all he's got to do at the moment is just keep himself comfortably running in this race. And well, even if he loses 3 or 4 attempts a lap by the end of this race with 3 minutes left on the clock, he's not going to lose the win of this one. And he seems to be in a very happy place as he heads towards what will be the Vidal chicane again. Sharples, 5 seconds back. The old dudes in cars driver is not giving up here in the hunt for what will be the AM Championship crown, but right now he's not going to take it. It will go the way of Cranleigh-Swash if things finish as they stand. And Hendrik Zilker, as much as he was closing, there you can see him in the rear of the picture behind Ruben Berings' car, but the Venari Racing driver is still matching the pace of Sharples and Cranleigh-Swash, at least on the last lap, albeit I think on this lap, Cranleigh-Swash at 54.5, Sharples at 54.4, Zilker at 54.6. He is being matched now, and it does seem as though all 3 drivers locked into their places and waiting to see what comes about. As for the rookie class, well, Richard Jones, he may have had a big slide earlier on, but it has not slid him out of the lead. If anything, he's held that lead at a comfortable 25 seconds of the rookies ahead of Jordan Jones, but it's going to be a Jones 1-2 here, albeit Jordan Jones right now trying to chase down James Connolly, the last of the running AM drivers, who you can see there just off in the distance with a new front bumper inserted on that McLaren 720S Evo. But Jones here with a comfortable 46-second gap over Alex Brown, and well, then it will be Darian Giacovelli, who's the last of the runners in the rookies, who is all the way down in none other than 24th place, as these drivers all head towards the concluding lap. Speaking of which, well, our race leader, here he is. He's on lap number 31 with 2 minutes left on the clock. He's definitely going to squeeze to the 32nd lap, so there's no question marks about how many laps they're going to get. And in fact, given the fact he's coming into the final corner with 1 minute 57 left to go, we will not be seeing a 33rd lap. We will be restricted to 32 laps here. There's not enough time in with the pace he's delivering, because he is lapping in the 53s. He crosses the timeline with 1 minute 50 to go, so therefore this is going to be the final lap of the season, ladies and gentlemen. And for Stuart Reynolds right now, well, making his way on around. The confidence is there for Fury Sim Sport, and the team will be absolutely ecstatic if he can bring this home, given the fact that all season long he has not picked up a win. But right now, with pole position and the fastest lap, he brings this home. He ends his season on a perfect result, and it would be enough mathematically to make sure he guarantees himself fourth in the Elite Championship. But can he get there? We will see what he's going to be able to do. Daniel Stasuk, meanwhile, well, he's been able to break away from Tobias Kruken, and, well, he's not been able to catch up to Reynolds. I think they are going to stay as they are. There is Tobias Kruken running in third, and Niels Bacage has James Powelsland for close company, who we say hello to in the YouTube chat, remarking only moments ago about the difficulties of his teammate Pavel Dolezal. But there's Powelsland right now trying to get himself right in the hunt here versus the NJB Performance Ford Mustang. And when the battle of the V8, it's 5 litres versus 6.3, he may have the best part of an extra quarter of a litrage compared to that Ford Mustang, but he's not quite able to make it work to his advantage at the moment. He's going to go for it there under braking into turn number 8. That was very bold. And, well, I think Powell's even respected there that he had the ABS light on as he went into the braking zone. If he didn't, I think Niels would have had his Ford Mustang turned on around. But that was Powell's trying to essentially feint Bacage into going deep into the corner. But the NJB Performance driver did not wilt under the pressure and instead decided, you know what, you're going to need to stop that car, or we both go around and we both go to the stewards room afterwards, and you're the one who's going to get the slap on the wrist. But roaring the way through turn number 12 right now, which shows you how much Powelsland wants this result. But can he find it? Well, we will have to see, because at the front of the field, meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, as he makes his way through the final corner, Stuart Reynolds has yet to be an elite winner this season, but in the final race, he's going to have the perfect win, pole position, fastest lap, race win. Stuart Reynolds there for Fury Sim Sport, elite and overall. Behind him will be your elite champion, Daniel Stasuk for NJP Performance, and in taking a third place, his only second third place of the season, Tobias Kruken, head of Niels Bacage, who held off James Powelsland to line. For Daniel Shillcock, it is going to be a complete upturn into the Pro Championship. Here is your Pro Champion. Daniel Shillcock takes the Pro Championship with a win in the Pro class of Track 6 Racing in a season-long duel with Ruben Berings. Brother Brett Berings will come across the line in second place of the pros, just ahead of Pavel Dolezal at 7th and 8th. Then it'll be Casper Brotner who rounds off your pro podium. 4 seconds behind, your AM champion for Pigeon Racing, ladies and gentlemen. He knows he's done it. Sean Cranleigh-Swash takes the AM crown with just enough fuel to spare, ahead of Darren Sharples, who's in a resilient second place for the AM championship. And then it'll be Ruben Berings, a run-up in the pro class, and frustrated there. You can understand as he takes out his frustrations on the tyre barrier. Hendrik Zilkert finishes third there in the AM class. Well done to him for making it a second podium of the season, with Sight Ansley and Ryan Davis just behind. But then we've got a bit more to come, ladies and gents, for a couple more drivers. And, well, for Rob Windsor, as he makes it out the final quarter behind Nathan Scott, a 5th place in the AM class today, but he's happy about that and ends his season on another top 5. What an effort there for the UK Sim Racing driver ahead of Krista Halsoy, who had nothing go right today on that opening lap, and, well, knowing that it was not his season, and 3rd place will be where he sits in the Pro Championship. For Richard Jones, well, he lingers his way to line and, well, takes it nice and easy, slow and steady, as they say, and the SAS driver there will take another win, his 3rd of the rookie season, and that guarantees him a top 5 spot in the Rookie Championship, with Jordan Jones passing James Conley there right at the end. Well, that's overall position, but for Jordan Jones, it's a 2nd place in the rookie class. Well done to him. He may not have been the best of the Joneses today, but he's definitely brought home one of his best results of the season. And Alex Brown, we fished a lap down as he celebrates donuts there. It's a double podium for Slow and Steady Racing in the rookie class, and, well, the BMW M4 driver I'll be very happy about that one as they all celebrate there, albeit hidden by the grandstands. Can we get a better view? We try to, but let's take a look at those race results, ladies and gentlemen, as all drivers calm down, and Sean Cranleigh-Swash there absolutely enjoyed himself, no doubt about it, as he brings his season to a close with the ultimate high, and we celebrated it in style as that brings the season at 15 of the GT3 League to a close, at least on circuit provisionally. But without further ado, let's look to the scenic view, in fact, and bring you those race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. As we do get a faceful there of the old dudes in cars at McLaren, to be fair, and they're all celebrating right inside of the camera. But then we do look to the scenic view, and then let's take a look at those race results, and here they are. And as we can see, after 60 minutes of absolutely brilliant racing today here in the season finale, duels up and down the order everywhere you looked. And that's what we love to see in a finale, to be fair, because there's plenty still on the line, including the UK Sim Racing Challenge Cup, of course. Stuart Reynolds takes his first and only win of the season overall in Elite for Fury Simsport ahead of NJP Performance's Daniel Stasuk, and then Tobias Kuchen rounds off your overall top 3 for Solpec Precision Racing. In 4th, Niels Bacard, who held on well versus James Powelsland at the end to take 4th, with the Pace Worx eSports driver just missing out. And then your pro winner was 6th, Daniel Shillcock there for Tractics Racing ahead of Ruben Berings in the Audi R8 Evo 2 LMS, or a brilliant runner-up position there in the pro class of DDK with Digital Motor Art. Pavel Dolezal, he took 8th for Pace Worx eSports ahead of Casper Brotner, who rounded off the pro podium there for Old Dudes in Cars. And in 10th place, Sean Cranleigh-Swash, your AM winner for Pigeon Racing, and what an absolute way to put a stamp on his championship title. Darren Sharples was best the rest in 11th, a run-up in the AM class there for Old Dudes in Cars, and becomes run-up in the AM Championship, ahead of Ruben Berings for DDK with Race Anywhere with that drive-through penalty with only 8 minutes to go, costing him a huge result, and with it the Pro Championship crown. 12th place was to Ruben Berings then, with Hendrik Zilka 13th and taking his podium there. What a drive from him for Venari Racing, his 2nd, 3rd place of the season. With Cy Anthony there just missing out on the pro podium, but a happy run to 5th in class, 14th. And then Ryan Davies wrapping up your top 15. Looking a bit further down the order, of course, because the points are not scored overall, they're scored in class. We do come to your rookie winner in 20th place, Richard Jones there, with the slow and steady racing driver in the 99, enjoying an absolute dominant run, even with a few mistakes, but to be fair, keeping his head in the game, and that's why he was your rookie winner in our season finale. Jordan Jones took the run-up spot in the rookies, 21st, the privateer, and then he had to look the best part of 2 places back in the lap down to Alex Brown, who rounded off the rookie podium in 23rd for slow and steady racing, head of Swazi Gold's Darian Giacovelli. Unfortunately, commiserations to Matt Edmondson, Matthew Cheverton, and Daniel Pace for their retirements over the race distance for UK Sim Racing Hill, Aztec Racing, and Old Dudes in Cars. But as for the class finishing positions, we start off with the elites then, and as we can see, Stuart Reynolds and taking that victory in the lead by 5.3 seconds over Daniel Stasuk and the Fury Simsport driver there. An absolutely brilliant drive, despite the pressure put on him by his rivals from start to finish. The NJ performance, Acura of Daniel Stasuk, well, he didn't need to win today. He didn't need to even score points today. All he needed to do, make sure he didn't incur the wrath of the stewards, and that means our champion-elect becomes our official champion in the elite class. And well done to Daniel Stasuk for an incredible championship campaign. Tobias Kuchen was third there for Solpec Precision Racing, and a great end to his season, fighting hard all the way through. With Niels Bacard in 4th place there for NJP Performance, just missing out on the podium, but just ahead of James Powelsland for Pace Worx eSports, with his teammate Pavel Dolezal, with that late drive-through after the contact between himself and Tobias Kuchen, relegated him from a fight for 3rd all the way down to 6th, but he will still take the run-up spot in the Elite Championship. As for the Pro class, well, as we can see here, Daniel Shillcock, your winner for Tractics Racing, and that win rewarding him with the Pro Championship crown, albeit with the intervention of a bit of a lady luck elsewhere, because Ruben Berings was 2nd for DDK with Digital Motor Art, ahead of Old Dudes in Cars Casper Brotner. But there is the other side of the proverbial coin. Ruben Berings 4th for DDK Race Anywhere because of a drive-through penalty, and with it, relinquishing the championship crown to Daniel Shillcock. And what a gut-wrenching way to end the season. But if Ruben's listening right now, and indeed I hope he is, nothing can take from him the fact that he has been one of the stars of the season, and things just were not on his side in the late stages. And looking over the season, what a season-long rivalry between Ruben and Daniel, but in the end, only one could win. Both of them would have deserved it. I think they'll both emerge from this one, both stronger drivers and happy drivers as a result of it upon reflection. Cy Anthony, 5th there for UK Sim Racing Prize, enjoying a great scrap with the likes of Ryan Davies and Nathan Scott in particular, with the pair from Empire Motorsport 6th and 7th, ahead of Krista Halsoy, who was the last of your finishers of the Pro class of Tractics Racing after his early altercation with Daniel Pace and Matthew Cheverton. Speaking of which, Matthew Cheverton retired with 14 laps to go. They're in 9th for Aztec Racing, but a non-finisher as classified. In the AMs, well, here we got to see what Sean Cranleigh-Swash wrap it up with a rubber stamp there for his AM Championship crown. The Pigeon Racing driver there taking the win by 5.2 seconds over Old Dudes in Cars Darren Sharples. You run up in the AM class, who couldn't quite make the magic of Silverstone happen again here today, but he was ahead of Hendrik Zilka there by a further 5 seconds. And the Venari Racing Acura doing an absolutely solid job of taking home the final spot on the podium there in number 2, and he'll be absolutely grinning from ear to ear about that one. Jack Barker was 4th in the 163 made for Racing Acura after the prang on the rear suspension between himself and Nathan Scott, but to be fair, he got that fast repairing and recovered well to 4th, ahead of UK Sim Racing stewards Rob Windsor and James Connolly, and then unfortunately it was retirements for Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Hill and Old Dudes in Cars Daniel Pace. We'll then come to the rookie class, last but by no means least, and here we see out of our 4 drivers, Richard Jones was your winner, albeit our champion, Alistair Murray, not on the grid today, nor the run-up of BJ Alvarez, but Richard Jones enjoying a brilliant run to end his season with that performance. Jordan Jones, meanwhile, with that second place, also takes one of our run-up spots in the rookie championship, if my memory serves me correctly of how the points will fit together, but the privateer driver there, 11.6 seconds, well, it was a bit of a gap there to Richard Jones, but he tried to keep him honest as much as possible, and there was a lap down to Alex Brown for Slow and Steady Racing and Darren Giacovelli for Swazi Gold. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our rundown of the provisional results. And well, without further ado, of course, we do have still a little bit more to cover before this broadcast is all said and done. And first up on the list, well, is going to be none other than our VRS giveaways. And well, for the final time of the season, we do them, of course. And here we are then. So we have got our drivers' names all ready to go. And well, we start off with our 3-month draw, and we're going to copy paste all our drivers' names in. And these are all the drivers who made it to the grid for this round and haven't previously won. We do have the best part there of what is 21 drivers. Let's spin the wheel and see who takes home the final 3-month VRS subscription giveaway prize. And it's going to be Alex Brown who takes home the final prize. I do believe that means now that he has taken the prize in what is, in fact, only one of the prize pools there. So congratulations to Alex for getting the biggest one in the season finale. We then come to what will be our 2-month prize draw winner. It's going to be another 21 drivers' names in here, and we copy-paste them all in. We've already removed the names that are ineligible. Let's spin the wheel again and find out who's going to take home the 2-month prize. And it's Ryan Davies who takes home the 2-month prize. That after a brilliant scrap between himself and teammate Nathan Scott, we comes away with something even more special there, a 2-month virtual racing school subscription. But then, what about our 1-month draw? And here in the 1-month draw, we do have the best part of, I believe, 23 names that are eligible. Well, for the final time of the season, ladies and gentlemen, let's spin the Wheel of Fortune. Well, it's going to feel sore quite right now, and it won't feel special, but for Ruben Berings, he will take home the final 1-month virtual racing school subscription, and congratulations to Ruben, and, well, a little prize to go alongside his run-up spot in the Pro Championship as we understand it. Speaking of which, then, we've done our VRS giveaway draws, so now the only thing we can do is talk about the points at the end of the season, and here we go then. Starting with the Elite Drivers' Championship, and as we can see, ladies and gentlemen, after 10 rounds of racing, it is Daniel Stasuk, your winner on 234 points to the 203 of Pavel Dolezal. It didn't mean anything today in terms of where Stasuk finished, so long as he didn't have any minus points added to his tally. And, well, the champion-elect has become your champion in what a campaign. And in the end, over the course of the season, by my mathematics, taking a grand total of what was 7 out of 10 wins. And, well, that's what set him up for success from the outset. Pavel Dolezal, a brilliant run to second place ahead of teammate James Powelsland. The two of them there, 2-3 for Pace Worx eSports. They'll be very happy with that upon reflection, and that could be reflected in the Teams Championship shortly. With Stuart Reynolds a further 7 points behind there in 4th place for Fury Simsport with this win and perfect score as of the season finale, leaving him comfortably into that position, head of Nils Bacard, who was 5th. There was a further 6 points to Tobias Kruken, who then finished ahead of Alberto Grivelli, and your top 10 in the elite consistent also of Sam Derbyshire, Milton Tomlinson Dennis, and Austin William Campbell. A point behind, best rest 11th was Andrew Fairley, with Simon Bamber, Joe Newman, James Ibram, and Helder Gonzalez completing your top 15. And to wrap up the elite standings, it was James Armstrong, Casper Tunstead, Jarrett Lee, Michael Gray, and Jan Duffner. As for the Pro class then, well, at the very top, we can see Daniel Shillcock, your winner, after that late twist in the tail by 6 points for Tractics Racing over Ruben Berings for DDK with Race Anywhere. What a titanic fight between the two drivers all the way through the season. But in the end, Daniel Shillcock was the one who was able to withstand the test of time and performance and bring it on home. And congratulations to them both, but a special congratulations to Daniel Shillcock. Also, a round of applause, please, for Krista Houseway, 3rd place there for Tractics Tractix Racing, and only a point ahead of Ruben Berings right at the close. Even with the drama he had today at the Nürburgring, were able to hold on for the final spot on that top three. Ruben Berings in the Audi did a brilliant job in the AM class and ended his season on high in the Pro class there, 4th place, and definitely in the hunt with the top three all the way through the season. And there was a further 21 points to Casper Brotner in 5th for Old Duty Cars, who wasn't quite on the pace of the top four, but definitely had some great results, perhaps none more so than the 3rd place here today at the Nürburgring, and also the 2nd place at Fuji all the way back in round number 3. Ryan Davies was 6th, head of Cy Anthony, who held off Xander Hill to a point, and Darren Norquette a further 4 points behind there, completed your top 9, with 10th place going to Nathan Foster, 8 points ahead of Giles Philippets, who completed the run to the best of the rest. It was then Nathan Scott, Matthew Sheraton, Ryan Walker, Malik Bass, and Christian Maltret who completed the pro standings. And as for the AM class, well, here we can see, by the best part of 10 points, Sean Cranleigh-Swash delivered the goods today with a perfect score, meaning he finishes comfortably ahead for Pigeon Racing, ahead of Darren Sharples for Old Duty Cars. And congratulations to Sean, who right now, I think he will be a little bit over the moon about that one. I think he might be a little bit emotional, because I know how hard he has worked over the last few seasons in that Ford Mustang in order to be able to do a fantastic job with it, and he's absolutely delivered. However, let's not take anything from Darren Sharples, to be fair. The Old Duty Cars drive, he had a bumpy ride in the first half of the season, but in the second half of the season, he clicked things together, and it was Silverstone which really brought him to life as a major contender, if we didn't think so before that. And Neil Kenyon as well missed the season finale. However, if it weren't for a bad run of results in the last couple of rounds prior to the season finale, the UK Sim Racing Price driver could have been right there with them too. Rob Windsor, the sister team driver from UK Sim Racing Stuart, held on to 4th ahead of Jack Barker by 3 points at the close, where the made for racing driver there, despite all the difficulties in the Acura, will still finish inside the top 5. He'll be happy about that one after a time. Now 11 points behind him was James Connolly ahead of Nathan Anstis, with Hendrik Zilka and Daniel Pace and Simon Oldfield wrapping up your AM top 10. A further 14 points behind it was Tom Weston, best of the rest, ahead of Peter Duke, his DDK with Digital Motor Art teammate. And it was Matt Edmondson, Jeffrey Damon, Peter Cox, Ryan Woolsey, and Ashley Brooks who rounded off the AM standings. As for the rookie class, last of our Drivers' Championships, Alistair Murray there, your crowned champion. He was crowned as of the previous round, but to be fair, the UK Sim Racing Hill driver also confirmed today by 35 points over Jordan Lee Jones, who in fact has snuck his way ahead of BJ Alvarez right at the close there with Alvarez's absences, and with the DWR Sim Coach Setup's red driver, well, that goes to show you the commitment he's put in this season will reward him with a 2nd place. BJ Alvarez there for Fish the Standard, taking 3rd in the end, only 13 points ahead of Richard Jones, who will be ruining what could have been, particularly at Daytona and also Brands Hatch, and also the difficulties of Fuji. And if he'd had those 3 rounds go his way, well, could he have been chasing down Alistair Murray in the mid-portion of the season? That is a question we'll never quite know the answer to. However, he was ahead of Luke Checker by the best part of 23 points, and then Alex Brown was 6th there for Slow and Steady Race, and a further 2 behind, with 4 points between him and Darian Giacovelli in their good little rivalry for 6th in the end. Well done to the pair of them. They definitely were 2 rising stars of the season. And behind the Swansea Gold driver, a further point behind was Dan Oliver Fox, ahead of Christopher Bates and Stuart Pearson. Best of the rest in length was John Davis ahead of Steve Hughes, with Pavel Bruce, Simon Cheshire, Thomas Helmer, Simon Hartley, Rise Kitley, and Martin Fernie completing the rookie standings. As for the teams championship then, well, who is going to be your team's champion? And without further ado, it is Tractix Racing who take it, ladies and gentlemen, by 5 points over NJB Performance. The pro pair of Krista Houseway and Daniel Shillcock have upset expectations and delivered a golden performance there. The pros have taken it ahead of NJB Performance by 5 points at the close, and Old Duty Cars are further 2 points behind to complete the top 3. Pace Worx eSports in the end, they absolutely put on some brilliant performances over the season, but it wasn't enough, particularly where some rounds have let them down, perhaps none more so than Interlagos, where it all went wrong for Pace Worx eSports. They failed to fall right at the end, but were ahead of UK Sim Racing Hill. And credit where it's due, the top 4 have been absolutely incredible this season. The Team's Championship kept us guessing all the way through, but Tractix Racing, your brilliant winners there. And well, outside of the top 4, UK Sim Racing Hill, 3 points ahead of Slow and Steady Racing at the end, and a further 7 clear of DDK with Digital Motor Art. In 8th, it was DDK with Race Anywhere. They held off the charge of UK Sim Racing Stuart by 8 points, and then the sister team of UK Sim Racing Price rounded off the top 10, comfortably 60 points clear of the single driver teams such as Pigeon Racing, and also DWR with SimCoach Setups Red, where Effect Simulations, Fury Simsport and Made for Racing completed your team's championship top 15. As for the Challenge Cup, meanwhile, well, the first time we've ever done this in UK Sim Racing to have a cup that runs only from the midpoint of the season to the end. So in the final 5 rounds of the championship, who was the best of the drivers? It was Sean Cranleigh-Swash, ladies and gentlemen, who took it by a single point for Pigeon Racing in the AM category ahead of the pro driver of Daniel Shillcock. The difference between the two of them there absolutely minuscule, and it all came down to 4 penalty points for Daniel Shillcock, and the results swinging the way of Sean Cranleigh-Swash in the earlier round, particularly at Magny Core. But look at that between the AM and the pro driver, nothing between them. And behind the Tractics Racing driver, third in the Challenge Cup, James Powelsland, who really came alive in the late stage of the season, and that standout victory at Silverstone really being the difference between him and Darren Sharples. From the Pace Worx eSports driver then, Sharples was a further point behind for Old Dudes in Cars, and it was another point off for Daniel Stasuk for NJP Performance, who rounds off the Challenge Cup top 5. Tractics Races Krista Halzoy was 6th, 2 ahead of Jordan Lee Jones, with Rob Windsor, Casper Rotner and Hendrik Zilka completing your top 10. And then it was best the rest in 11th, Pavel Dolezal ahead of Jack Barker, with Alistair Murray, Stuart Reynolds and Ruben Berings completing your Challenge Cup top 15. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've covered all the results, and that means it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about UK Sim Racing, we definitely recommend, if you want to check us out, you go to our official website, and that web address being none other than uksimracing.co.uk, as you see it on screen now, and where it's the #1 home for all things UK Sim Racing information-wise, and if you want to become part of the community, all you need to do is use the link in the top left corner of the website's homepage to join the official UK Sim Racing Discord. You can see there we've got the website neatly arranged into our homepage, our live streams and videos on demand, our partners where you can find out more about our affiliates, and also our active leagues page where we're going to have that filled with more information in due course as to what's coming up next. But if you don't want to necessarily go to our website today, you can, of course, follow us on social media, and the best place to do so is on Twitter, now known as X as well, and that's at twitter.com/UK Sim Racing _, where you can hear all the latest news and announcements and all things UK Sim Racing. I'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our title sponsor throughout the season, the Virtual Racing School, their web address being VRS.racing, and, well, if you're wanting to be a little bit more in the know about the VRS, well, established in 2016, the Virtual Racing School aims to help sim racers get faster through the provision of top-tier software and hardware, which draws upon the knowledge and experience of both real-life racing drivers and sim racing professionals. A VRS subscription, extremely popular with sim racers around the world, provides an intuitive solution for combining data analysis and coaching, which may be used by racers at all levels to take their racing to the highest level. Meanwhile, the VRS Direct Force Pro line of wheelbases and pedals offers the cutting edge in sim racing hardware, as used by more professional sim racers and real-life racing drivers than any other brand in the world, including Formula 1 sensation Oscar Piastri. So if you want to get faster, be sure to head to VRS.racing today to find out more. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, that concludes Season 15 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League. And whilst we haven't quite got anything quite in store at the moment, planning is still ongoing and discussions are ongoing, stay tuned because there will be plenty more racing to come in the future at UK Sim Racing. It's only just around the corner at the next Apex, but that does bring us to a close for an absolutely brilliant season of racing in the latest instalment of our GT3 League. And with that, we definitely will now bring things to a close and the curtain must come down. So I must say, for the final time this season, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure bringing you all the racing throughout start to finish. We have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. A huge congratulations to all of our drivers, whether they've been champions, runners-up, or just participating in a couple of rounds. We wouldn't have had a brilliant season without them. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers have tried to do so all season long, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.